City Downtown Park Task Force to order this evening. We'd like to welcome you all this evening. We're going to begin this meeting with introductions of the task force members that are here this evening, starting at my immediate right.
Jay Dunstan, Chairman, Downtown Development Authority.
I'm Pat Perush. I'm a Royal Oak City Commissioner.
Frank Arvin, I'm a resident and local architect.
Sarah Kinger, Parks and Rec.
Tim Jaworski, Chairman of Parks and Rec.
Charlene Douglas, Mayor Pro Tem.
We are missing one more member, Commissioner Kyle Dubuck, who is supposedly on his way, and he will be joining us momentarily. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of our March 18th, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Dunstan, supported by?
Second.
Second. Any discussion, corrections, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes. The next item on our agenda is City Commission comments. I will start with Commissioner Douglas.
Looking forward to hearing what our presenters have to say tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Dubuck has joined us. Any comments this evening?
Same.
Okay. Moving right along then, our most important item of business this evening is to review the bidders' presentations. We were fortunate enough to receive 5 bids on this project for the architectural services and design projects for this park. We opted to hear presentations and receive information and have an opportunity to interview all 5. We have not made any cuts to that list as of this point. So that is the purpose of this evening's meeting, is to hear from all 5 bidders on this proposal. I'm not sure how they were chosen in terms of order. We will go in order based on the agenda that has been published that you all have in front of you. Each bidder will have an opportunity for about a 15-minute presentation, followed by about 15 minutes of questions from the members of the task force. We'll probably be taking a break in between presentations for a few minutes just to get just to give an opportunity for the next presenter to get set up, and then we'll move forward as expeditiously as we can. If there are any questions from anyone at this point at the task force? If not, then we will move then right into the first presentation, which is the presentation by the bidder MKSK.
Hi, I'm Andy Knight with MKSK. We have on our team Fleiss & Vandenbrink and De Leon and Primer Architecture Workshop. We are in this group right here, and you can probably tell the other 4 groups of teams that are here in the audience tonight as well. Well, we're really excited to pursue this project. It had a lot of really great ingredients to it that we really look for when we seek out a project, hence the Urban Park Alchemy. And we'll get into some of those. I mentioned our teams, MKSK. We are a design firm in the Midwest. We have an office in Detroit. I'm a design principal there. Also, Fleiss & Vandenbrink, one of the 3 preferred engineers in the city of Royal Oak. And then De Leon and Primer Architecture Workshop, who's a national award-winning and very talented architecture firm that we've worked with quite frequently with. These are the core members of our team. Myself, Brad Strader, Haley Wolf, they are in our Detroit office. We've also got Rick Stout and Jennifer Shehub here with Fleiss & Vandenbrink, who will be speaking a little bit here and also participating in the Q&A. So I've got a lot of slides that I'm going to get through, and I know that we've got 20 minutes. So what I wanted to do is just repeat back to you the questions that you guys sent to us to make sure that we address those critical items. One of the first ones dealt with public engagement. How did we propose our engagement in addition to some of the engagement that you guys have already had, some really great some engagement. For us, we have a mobilization phase. Our engagement at that phase is just kind of set the tone of the project to do the work plan. That's with steering committees, that's with the task force. Where we really get into public engagement is going to be in the second phase, which is understanding, building on top of that look and feel. We don't want to redo that. We've already looked at that. Some really great ideas. Bars set really high, which is great. Another reason that we wanted to get involved in this project. That's a moment for us to begin sharing some of the things that we've learned from doing some site recon, doing some investigation on the site, some analysis, and beginning to have a conversation with the community that's a little bit more dialed in to the specifics of the project. And then also in design development, public engagement session number 2 would be to share 3 different design, at the minimum 3 different design alternatives to get feedback and get comments back from the community. So we're proposing 2. Obviously, those are negotiable, and we'll work with you guys to determine what that end product is. Process, in our experience, having an inclusive process is extremely important. Here's a couple of examples of some of the things that we've done and we're also proposing, is whether it's a full-on public engagement that we develop. Is it us joining an existing event here in town with a booth or a kiosk? Or is it us developing some kiosks and things on the site that has information about the project, updates, online engagement too is another opportunity. So there's different ways that we can engage the public to get feedback and to get them with a better understanding of what's going on, how's the process, where do we stand at the moment, so that they feel like that they're empowered and part of the work. Experience. What your question was, provide examples of built parks or similar size you have been part of, and who on your team has actually been involved. Wanted to start with a project that we are currently building right now that is actually happening. This is a project in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Very similar scale, very similar community that did not have a downtown park space, and they desired that. The site that the project was in was actually 2 parking lots, and they utilized this for concerts. They had a summer concert series, and they really needed a space not only to host those events, but also for daily activity and just green space, kind of the lungs of the downtown area. So we went through a process where we developed 3 different ideas, working with the community, kind of inspired by some of it's a river city, inspired by the way that the water flows through the area, through the sound that flows through the space. And without getting too deep into that, this is some of the design ideas, and these are some snapshots from a couple of weeks ago on site that I took that begins to look at water features, how we deal with trees in an urban area to ensure that they're going to grow in a healthy way. We also had a stage here. I say stage because that's kind of a recognizable word, but we designed it as a pavilion so that when an event wasn't going on, it didn't look like an unused stage. It invited people in, so it really took some cues off of some of the river traffic, the railroad bridges that go over the river, and beginning to reflect some authentic character in the area. Another park is Livingston Avenue. Our Casey Elmer, who's with me in our Louisville office, who will be critical in our design team, was a project manager for Livingston Avenue Park. This park is not only one that you participate in, but it's also something you look down upon as well. You can see the tall building next to it, similar to the city center that's next to our site here. So it's not only something that's beautiful to participate in, but something to look at, and then also reflecting the community. There used to be a park here. It had since been developed around and had been impacted until we got involved in beginning to reflect the history of that park. So we have signage and wayfinding in-house that we've also got some hours for on this team to participate, and if there are stories to be told, we want to figure out a way to get those integrated into the project. So we think that was something of interest to that project. U Square, downtown Cincinnati, a little bit different because this is a much more dense site, but it had a very aggressive program. And how do we begin to develop a space around a program that's both flexible and engaging? A few of the projects that are images here show how it acts both in the daytime and the nighttime, how it embraces not only just a few people but also a crowd of people. This is adjacent to University of Cincinnati, so it has to embrace the crowds of people before games, the tailgating, that kind of thing. So that was something that we had to work into in the program. Liberty Center, another project where Casey Elmer was heavily involved. I'm going to focus on the square and the park. This was a very complicated project, part of a larger development. We also did the roofscape there, but I'm going to focus on those other two areas. We've got the park area, which involved a water feature, also involves some sculpture, a little bit more passive where people can congregate during eating, shopping, those kinds of things. We also had the square, which was an opportunity to be heavily programmed for concerts and those kinds of things. Both these two areas, the lawn areas, were very porous, so we could deal with stormwater on the site, which is something that's very interesting on this project.
Hello there, I'm Rick Stout with Lisa Vandenbrink Engineering, and as Andy had mentioned, we are one of the 3 preferred vendors for services with Royal Oak. We've had the pleasure of working with your community already on stormwater, looking at the alleyways and the master planning process, also water and street improvements, the 4th and Knowles, which could be potentially one of the first green streets in the city, and also the traffic signalization. We've had experience, and we've really liked the synergy of our team, being involved with City of Birmingham with their multimodal committee. We've had the ability to team up with MKSK on the old Woodward streetscape and also working with them towards a new streetscape for the Maple Road area of Birmingham. So we've got some good synergy, some good experience. We bring the ability to have landscape architects, planners, and engineers all working together on our team, and we feel that really brings the best of each of those into your project. When we start looking at public spaces, as Andy mentioned, we're looking for flexibility of use, we're looking for sustainability, we're looking for social interaction, we're also looking for a real dynamic that is something that we can create this uniquely Royal Oak. And I think that's where we like to start all of our projects, from that basis of creating something special for your community.
Yeah, what I've got on here are a couple of projects from F&V that we wanted to share. We've got Hart Commons. We've got Streetscape Experience. This is projects right now that he just mentioned that we're working together on. Actually, a portion of this has already been implemented. They're looking at implementing the other phases here very soon. Harvey Streetscape, do you want to say something about that?
Well, Harvey Streetscape was a real, again, looking at Hudsonville, which does not really have a downtown core. One of their main principles of this project was stormwater quality and quantity. So we looked at a totally, I want to say about 27,000 square feet of permeable surface, which translates over to about 2.5 million gallons of water over the year. That is, instead of just going into a storm system, it goes into the groundwater and does some groundwater recharge and filtering. There is a very minor system. Obviously, in winter, you've got to accommodate that not everything is going to go into the ground. So there is kind of a backup system, very small, which, again, tries to creatively manage stormwater and not treat it as a negative, but also treat it as a positive. And I think the vision for this site is not just the stormwater that could be managed from the site itself, but we would look at a much larger area, and is there a way to use this to really improve the overall water quality and quantity of what's going into your system.
Thank you, Rick. Shot of that nighttime, understanding that we know there's day and night, and also seasonal, which is something that I wanted to mention, that on all of our parks, we design them so that there are things to do in the wintertime as well, not only just from a seasonal color perspective, but that Lawrenceburg project, we sized the lawn so that it can have an ice rink on it. There wasn't a permanent one there, and then also winter festivals that happen where they line the walkways with kiosks, so wanted to make that special point. Architecture, structures could play a significant role here. There may be a pavilion, there may be restrooms. Those are things that we'll work out, but I wanted to point out in this image in the middle, the nighttime image, that is a restroom that won an AIA award. So, you know, not every building is going to need to be amazing, but every building is going to be a part of the overall park and the aesthetic. So we want to think about every little move we do. And Daily on Perimeter is really good at working with materials. The Knoxville Botanical Garden in the far bottom right is just a corrugated metal that they folded in a modular way to create something that does kind of glow and change with the sun angles and the light. So I wanted to mention those. Authenticity. How do you make the park reflective of the city history? And if you see a piece of paper fly at my head, that's Brad telling me that I've got 10 minutes left. So just give you a heads up on that. But history, this park that there's an image of, we found that it actually existed in this area. And so that is no longer there, but there's some interesting things there, like the mixture of the plant material, which was really interesting. The way that the paths move through the site is a very flowing sort of way, almost as though it were kind of the Native Americans, the paths that used to cross through this area. That's of interest. So there's some things here that we want to understand a bit more and dive into. Also, I found this image here on the left that was an interpretation of a survey from the early 1800s that did mark Native American trails in the area. It did mark significant trees that were here, specifically on this site and around this site. It also began to highlight different landscape biomes like savannas, prairies, swamps, plains, and that's all very good information and inspiration for us to think about in this project, that it's not just a cookie cutter park, but it's something that is very unique to the area, and there are native landscape systems that will work and thrive in this area. So wanted to make note of those. Also, the notion of the royal oak tree, the namesake, and I know that that's probably something that's obvious. But for us, it was something of interest that maybe it's something we can dissect and understand. For example, the tree rings, the stories that can tell. The oak grows very slow, so there's a lot of tree rings that are in there. There's a lot of history. Also, the DNA. We can take genetic sampling from plant material and how that could possibly begin to help translate a story. Now, this is just a scenario and something we're not proposing, but these are things that are of interest to us. For example, the tree ring could be that circular path that begins to connect people around the perimeter of the site. The DNA sequence that could be specific to a royal oak tree could become a paving pattern in certain areas. That also might be something that you could have donor papers for or tell a story within. So just some thoughts and some ideas with that. Innovation and sustainability. Wanted to talk about, one, right now there's an existing building on the site, and that will be slated for demo here very soon. Is there an opportunity to utilize the basement space and not fill it in and then take it back out later? We could possibly use this for storage for stormwater. One of the challenges we want to give ourselves is to create a site that not only has net zero runoff, but how can we also absorb rainwater, stormwater from other sites? Most immediately adjacent to would be the streetscapes, but what other areas could we also plug into this too? And that's something that we would want to work with, not only just our project and the task force, but other folks that may be developing around us. Tree canopy, obviously the urban heat island effect. When you look in the Google Earth, you do see a lot of gray, and it's kind of void of green in that area. So this is an opportunity to insert a lot of green into this area, so it does act as a magnet. And a lot of our green spaces in urban parks operate as an anchor to not only just the downtown areas and the people that are there, but also to future development too. So that's something to think about and the importance. And also habitat creation. The little things that you can do, like putting some milkweed in a wildflower area, now you're pulling in butterflies. And that's something, an additional layer that's not only just helping the environment, but it's also educational, and it's something that you can come and watch too during the seasons. Social. Number one, there's daily activity, right? People are going to come use the space for lunch. I'm starting to show there just some placeholder things with the blue ring that goes around. Maybe that's kind of reflection of that tree ring, that circular path. We've got a few yellow paths through there that may kind of reflect something that would be a crossroads from some Native American trails. But the idea that you can come here on a normal day eat lunch, watch some people play in a fountain that might be there. That's something we want to design for. We also want to design for park events at the square scale, and I'm calling it square, that alchemy kind of piece, the park, the square, and the district, so that there may be something that we need to utilize and maybe contain a space for a afternoon concert, a movie night, those kinds of things that may be contained there. And then also, how do we begin to program this space so it works at the district level too? Maybe it incorporates something from a programming perspective that is in conjunction with the market. Or the city center, or, that this all operates and kind of sings together in a harmonious way, and also pulls in the library too. I think that's an important distinction to make, is that the library has a really great presence on this park. It already does have a great back door. It's almost going to be a second front door, if not the front door, when this park's installed. Also, the cultural components. There's the Star Dream. We've got the Veterans War Memorial that are there. We'll work with the task force to determine if those need to go exactly where they are. It's fine if it does. Those are just some of the design discussions that we'd like to have. But also, what are the other components that could add to that element of art? And the dynamic quality is it a water feature, or is it more public art? And we think that would be something that would really help the dynamic quality of the space. And then in terms of activation, sometimes there's a long waiting period between, when the public sees the last image and then when the ribbon cutting occurs. Is there opportunity to capture their imagination during the process? Maybe it's rotating kiosks and things that may happen next to the library, or maybe it's art that gets put on the fence. I know the fence that goes around the city center building there has a lot of imagery. Maybe there's an opportunity to get local artists involved, and they begin to kind of paint that canvas around the outside. So that's something that we were interested in, and also having a healing ceremony. We think that could be something that could happen on day one of the project, where we go around and we sort of inventory with a group of school kids or whoever makes sense, and what are the different insects that are here, what are the different leaves and things that are here, and then document that over the course of the project and construction, and actually see with tangible results that the impact that we had here and is having an improvement on the downtown area in terms of wildlife and not only that, but our spirits too. So I think that could be something of interest and get people involved in the process. There was a question about deliverables. I've listed those here. If there's any specific questions, on our end, it's fairly straightforward. It's more kind of conventional SD, DD, CD. There are different layers within that. I've got a few other things like placemaking, activation summary. If you guys have questions, I don't want to get into that because I think I'm close to my 20 minutes, but be happy to answer any questions. So with that.
Good job.
We all can take a deep breath now.
Water.
Thank you very much. I just want to clarify, I said 15 minutes per presenter. I'm going to ask the staff, did you indicate to them 20?
We indicated to them 20 with 10 to 15 questions.
Okay. All right, so questions from the task force.
I was looking through your proposal. You talked about a project steering committee, a stakeholders sessions. There's the task force, there's the city. Can you kind of clarify what some of these roles are? I guess as a task force member, there was a lot of meetings and things, and I appreciate the involvement. I just want to kind of understand what the differences are.
Sure, yeah, and that would be something we would want to clarify with you all in the very beginning of the process, and develop a work plan. But the intent is that there's the task force, which is the group that we're going to be involved with on a day-to-day basis in terms of communication. I think the next layer after that would be the steering committee. That may be a group of some business owners or key stakeholders in the community that might be able to come maybe once per phase to give us some feedback on where we are. Tell us what their conversations are with the community. Maybe they represent a few other people, maybe up and down Main Street, or and then lastly would be the public engagement.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Douglas.
Well, apropos of that, I'm interested in your comments on the existing engagement, community engagement work that we've already done, and to what extent you intend to rely on that or conduct additional inquiries.
No, I think we would anticipate picking up where you guys left off. You know, that's what we do in our, and typically in our initial engagement is to get, you know, what's the attitude of the community. And I think we've gotten that out of the look and feel. You know, what do they expect? One of our projects, the Toledo Promenade Park, was in that look and feel. And I think that that the bar that you guys had set there is something that got us excited about getting involved in the project too. So we want to use that as a springboard to then move on to the next step. So I don't unless the group decides we should, I think we take that and move forward from there.
You, if I might continue,
Yes.
you did mention in your presentation, you talked about some things where you take an event to or take your ideas to a public event or so forth. And I just want to clarify that our city staff have already done a lot of work helping with the original community engagement, finding people, setting up meetings, providing email lists. And I just want to see to what extent you see our current community engagement staff assisting you.
Well, certainly we would want to be hand in hand or in lockstep with your group. I don't think we would want to be on an island doing our own thing. We want to work with that group and choosing events that make sense. For us, it's important to get out and have a conversation so that we learn from the community and the community gets to know us too. I think that relationship is really important, that sort of transparent process. So we will work with you to identify what makes sense for us to set a booth up or a kiosk or just to walk around with flyers and to talk to people. But I think that would be something we would want to set up. We typically develop a public engagement plan at the beginning of a project with during a kickoff meeting.
And I thought I had asked staff to ask our bidders what exact dollar portion of their proposal was community engagement. And yet I don't see that broken out in the detail that we were provided.
I've got and I'd be happy to share it with all of you, you know, once we get into the kickoff of the project, but I've got everything broken down into specific hours per person, which we can break out the public engagement, you know, if we needed to make that determination. Yeah.
Well, it's useful now so we can compare applicants.
I know. I prepared what you guys had
I
asked.
think that got transferred.
I guess not. Okay, thank you.
I think that's enough on public engagement. I had a couple questions, but they'll probably get answered. More kind of down and dirty, how do you deal with special constructions like let's say the entertainment pavilion / stage or anything else like a water feature and so forth in your bid proposal? You've kind of broken those out and you put numbers to at least the water feature. There isn't really a pavilion covered stage. It says TBD, so that's not a number in there. How would we go about doing that?
Yeah, the numbers are in the DPAW, and I distributed that through each of the phases. That was daily on perimeter architecture workshop. So let's assume that we go through the initial design phase and we determine as a team that we don't need a pavilion. Those fees would be removed. Therefore, I think what we would want to do is revisit the project at certain points in time to do a check with you guys to make sure that, you know, we're still on par. If we need to make some tweaks at certain stages, I think that makes a lot of sense. At this point in time, without a specific list of program elements, it's really hard to make that determination. But you know, I'm hopeful that Daily on Perimeter will be able to get involved because I think that element would be extremely exciting for this project. So if you want, you can just extract their numbers out and put it in that category.
So does that account for about the $20,000 less than what you submitted initially? Because your initial bid was $446, and you're coming in now at $424, $425-ish. Loose numbers. I'm not good at math.
Yeah, oh, if you guys keep coming back to me, it'll probably keep going down.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, and I thought I checked that, and it came together. There may be some expenses or something in there that didn't get
Okay.
wrapped up into those,
Am I missing
in
that?
those fees. I'd be happy to sit down with you
Okay.
guys and go through that
No, the water feature's
line
in
by
there.
line.
Okay. The water feature's not $20,000 though. Okay, thank you. We're gonna try to do math, which might take us some time.
Wouldn't be a good idea to do it now.
What?
Wouldn't be a good idea to do
No.
it now.
Any other questions on this side of the table here? No? Any other questions from anyone else?
Yeah, I do.
Yes,
Um,
right ahead.
To what extent I mean, we have a finite budget, we have to maintain this park. To what extent does long-term maintenance or do long-term maintenance costs consider in your thoughts?
Yeah, from day one, we need to think, and this is not unique to you guys. I think every community we work in is worried about operations, maintenance, both short-term and long-term, and the flexibility. You know, they want everybody, and we want flexibility so that you can evolve over time. So we think about that from day one in terms of, number one, we want to meet with who's going to be maintaining this. If there's not that, then we develop with you all an operations and maintenance plan so that we understand what's going to take to be successful, not just in the pretty pictures that we take at the grand opening or during the first event, but in year 10, that it's maturing and getting better, and it's not a burden on the community.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? I have one. We're back to the community engagement process. The way you're describing it, I see it serving a twofold purpose. Number one, you're getting the community feedback that you need in order to do the design process. You're also using it as a way to get to know us better. And I guess my question is how familiar are you with us as a community now? Your examples have all been from small projects out of state. I guess what I would like to know is a little bit more information about how much you know about us as a community right now at a starting point, and then going forward from that.
That's a great question. Myself, I don't know a whole lot about other than what I've learned from doing research. On our team, Brad Strader used to be with LSL, had an office for 20 years, just a couple of blocks from here. Fleiss and Vandenbrink, and if you guys want to come up and mention the projects that you're involved in, they are working currently in one of the preferred engineers in the city of Royal Oak. So-
Yes, we're very familiar with them, and they have an excellent track record. They're a superb firm. So to the extent that you have them on your team, that's a huge plus, because they do excellent, excellent work for us. But I guess I was just interested in knowing, as a team as a whole, how familiar you were with us as a community, and what you're going to need to do from your own standpoint to get to know us better if you're chosen, and how much that will be a part of the community engagement process.
Yeah, I think having conversations, doing research, we're a pretty quick study. That will occur and evolve over time. We'll continue to gain understanding. I also failed to mention Haley Wolf lives in the area too, so she's kind of involved in social, cultural things in the area. But
And I'll just add, I'm Brad Strader, so my office was 2 blocks away, 20 years. I've done training for the Planning Commission, DDA, I've worked on a number of projects for the city. Went to college with Tim Twing, who was my roommate in college, so I have an affinity and a lot of connections with the city. And I think a lot to live up to meet Tim's expectations, and so you have my commitment. That's why I'm on the team, because of the legacy that I bring working in Royal Oak for so many years on a number of different projects.
Okay.
And I'm not here to sell MKSK and then walk away. You guys will see my face at every meeting that we have, and even beyond ribbon cutting as well. So I want to make sure you guys know that I'm not just here as a principal to, say all the great things and then I'll disappear. I will be here, and I will be calling you guys and asking a lot of questions as the project goes on.
Are you based locally, Andy, or will we be?
No, I'm out of Louisville. There's a 50-minute flight
Okay.
out of there to here. So I have other projects going on in Detroit, so I'm here quite frequently. I also have a project, the Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, so I'm up in Detroit in this area a lot, and that's great. Enjoy it.
Okay.
Super. I do have a question, actually. Andy, you mentioned preserving the basement of this building for water runoff. Have you done that before? I mean, it seems like a new concept to me.
Yeah, not necessarily preserving the walls and the floor, but there's a void that comes with taking that out of the ground.
You would essentially fill it differently than...
Yeah, I mean, it's something to think about. You know, these are one of the things that you know, there's an expense in bringing soil in to fill that void. And if there's a way that we can work with the contractor, the engineering team, to possibly hold off on that and use that, then we're not digging something out that just got filled. You know, just some things to throw out there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we have reached our time limit according to my watch. So we thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
We're going to take just a few seconds here to shift gears and let the next group, which is the Smith Group, come up and get organized.
John, I wish you would have made these
Thank you.
smaller. No. Be a big girl. Wow. It's like one-on-one. As many of us.
That's fast, here we are.
Okay. Hello, we're ready when you are.
All right,
You
go
ready for
right
us?
ahead.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Well, hello, I'm Lori Singleton. I'm a landscape architect and design director at Smith Group. Thank you so much for having us here today. I think I especially want to recognize in the context of this moment for Royal Oak. Most of us are from the area. Some of us have lived here for many decades. And we remember when Royal Oak was the pioneer of returning to downtowns. The region wasn't doing it yet. The country, frankly, wasn't doing it yet. And Royal Oak focused on its downtown in a way that made all of us come here. We came here to eat. We came here to shop for all sorts of weird things that you could get nowhere else. And it was a really special place, and it continues to be, in the context of many things changing in cities across the country. And so we want to just mark this moment as a really incredible opportunity through this park to continue that transformation for Royal Oak and kind of center through a bold, new public space focused on the community, a new civic center for Royal Oak, how important this is to you and how excited we are about the potential to be a part of that process. And you've already begun embarking on it, right? You've been through a very rigorous community engagement process. You've started to draw some conclusions for the look and feel of what the place should be. And we're really excited about the chance to build on that with you and become part of that conversation. So that together with you, and this is an important part about our process, is to really create a place that's vibrant, that's flexible, that's sustainable, and uniquely Royal Oak. And that's key. Those are all key words to the way we work in our practice every single day across the country and the world, and it's key to how we will want to work with you.
Let me step in here, Lori. So let me tell you a little bit about Smith Group as a whole and our team. We are a national and international firm. We're up to 1,300 people now, over 13 offices in the U.S., 1 in China. We have experts in many disciplines, all in-house. And what that brings to you is a collaborative, one-stop shop in a way that we can provide all of these services for you with one phone call. And I know that a big firm might seem a little scary and 1,300 people is a lot to deal with, but I'm acting as project manager, and one call to me will access all of our resources. I'm a landscape architect, but will also serve as a project manager for this project. My goal is to keep things on time, on budget, to foster productive working relationships and make sure we have open communication and collaboration within the team and with you as well. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. Our team leader, Michael Johnson, is not with us today. His wife is running the Boston Marathon, and he is there supporting her, but he sends his regrets. Michael is our national urban design leader, and what he brings to the team is that sort of national experience, making these transformative urban spaces and sort of filtering that down to how we can uniquely apply it to our local design team. Our design leader, who you met, Lori Singleton, she is a force of nature in design. She is incredibly creative and innovative. She has the ability to take input from all sources and craft very unique and incredible spaces that are really authentic and inspiring and really just fun to be in. She will be our lead designer on the project. Next, we have our design architect, Paul Urbanek. He has lived in Royal Oak for 36 years. Paul is a good example of how we work in Smith Group and collaborate between the disciplines. Paul, you know, we work together to sort of blur those lines between inside and outside, and the importance of those connections in the in cities in particular, that the built environment and environmental systems and site are so closely tied together. So we really like that collaborative nature of an architect like Paul. For planning and engagement, Kathleen Duffy on our team. She is a planner. She has lived here in Royal Oak for the past 10 years. She is a public engagement specialist. She has worked with communities all over Michigan and has a depth of knowledge in getting to know communities, getting to ask the right questions, and really build those relationships with communities all over Michigan. Our civil engineer, Jackie Young. She is an urban green infrastructure specialist and just really innovative and great to work with. Creative problem solver. Really glad to have her on the team. And lastly, Patrick McBride. He's not here with us today, but he is also an integral member of our design team. As a lighting designer, he brings that extra special level of magic to the site to really create that other layer of interest.
So I want to just talk a little bit about how we approach design in general in response to some of your questions specifically, because gathering the historical and the local context is a really key part of what we do. We have a phase of our process that we call Discover, which is really about absorbing all of this information. And we have some people that we can absorb that from on a daily basis in-house, but we also have the ability to use the tools you've given us and more broadly dig in to the research to help find those things that inspire the design. And then we start to kind of interpret all of those possibilities, the complex site analysis with the kind of historical meaning and some of the larger vision, and translate that into a series of ideas that we can explore with you. So the idea is that we bring those ideas to you, we get and collect your feedback, and it's a kind of a continuous iterative process that relates that back into a design. So in the end, when you see the design, you feel like you're a part of that, and we believe that it's something that we've all created together. And in the end, we want something that's very detail-rich, very well-crafted, and has the legs to last and stand the test of time. Smith Group is one of the oldest architecture, isn't it the oldest architecture firm in the country? JJR, which was our site design branch that's now been actually since the 70s incorporated in. Also, we do projects that last. They are built to last, and our clients continue to come back to us because they know they can count on how we put projects together. So now we're going to talk about a handful of our projects, just to kind of touch on some of the questions that you mentioned in terms of our experience, in terms of sustainability, in terms of innovation, and in terms of how we relate to kind of the character and special places in each of the communities we work in.
So one of the examples of the clients that have come back to us repeatedly is Toledo Metro Parks. Smith Group has had a long and collaborative relationship with Toledo Metro Parks. We've worked on small-scale projects, from small planting plans to a large-scale master plan. Today we're just going to highlight two urban parks that Lori, Allison, and I have worked on for the Metro Parks. The first one would be Middle Grounds, which you see on the screen here. The Toledo Metro Parks, they are dedicated to enhancing natural spaces. And in this project, we really came together and fulfilled that vision. We created this treatment train green infrastructure, taking runoff from that bridge in the background. So we're taking runoff from outside our site and running it through some bioswales and constructed wetlands. And this park is located, you can't really tell, but it's in downtown Toledo. So it really gives access to the public, letting them get close and up and personal with that green space.
And building on that, another project we're all currently working on in Toledo, also downtown, is the Glass City Metro Park. And this one builds on those sort of goals of sustainability and habitat creation, and also really, this is probably a new venture for Metro Parks. This is the most programmed site they've ever had. We have an event lawn. We have space for year-round events for all scales of groups, all age levels. We have seasonal, let me flip to the next one, ice skating, sled hill, a number of winter activities, all within access of downtown. Another unique thing, just quickly about this park, is that it brings green space to a downtown neighborhood that was really fragmented. This was an old industrial site. There was never green space here. And so this, again, like with the first example, really brings green space to the neighborhood.
So the Little Caesars Arena in downtown Detroit, we were led all of the site design actually throughout the entire district Detroit, which really is inclusive of a whole network of open spaces that are built and designed to work together. And I think the key here is about the off and on that happens in city spaces, right? You have a downtown space that on some days has 5 or 10 people milling through it, and other days where you have a concert and there's 2,000 people. So designing for that flexibility and those opportunities is what happened on every square inch of the district Detroit. We did the streets, the festival streets, the plazas, the open spaces, and really made them a place that all hangs together.
Yeah, so that wide variety of activities and events that will occur on these streets in the LCA project, we really designed for it. We built in infrastructure such as power, water, audio right into the streets and plaza spaces, and we even were proactive in providing extra capacity for that extra flexibility and future growth.
So every tent that was planned, every potential market booth, all of those were forecasted so that we could really spread the infrastructure out so you're not draping cables everywhere and for getting them not to, so people aren't tripping on them and you can wash down the systems. We get how public spaces need to work and the demands on them that happen throughout the year, and we know to think ahead and build for those. Hill Farms, this is in Madison, Wisconsin. Michael Johnson and I have been working with them to really create this. This is an entirely new district within Madison, centered around this great green space. And I think what's really pertinent here is are two things. One is the role of the streets in this space. The park doesn't end at the curb. It really has the chance to expand and contract into the street, up to the faces of the buildings, and have the opportunity to grow during events and really become an incredible pedestrian space. It's also designed to reflect the larger regional context. So the design elements are all specifically shaped and molded as interpretations of the surrounding geography, so and geology. So that's really another example. Again, of course, this isn't your geology. This isn't what you would want here, but what is unique to Royal Oak that we can draw inspiration from. In Lansing, we've been working with them to plan a park. It's an existing park that is now being reshaped and rethought to handle more of the kind of events they're already having. So this is a very quiet space most of the days with Lansing Community College across the street and downtown workers coming to visit. And then all of a sudden there's 12,000 people at a concert. So what happens when you have to plan for that kind of ebb and flow of activity? Well, we built it into all of the spaces. So the river walk that enjoys the edge of the river and the new habitat and flood mitigation and stormwater management we're doing there doubles as a market that pops up during events in the event tents. Again, here we planned all of the different scenarios and looked at how this space can really expand and contract and be very durable and usable for those peak times and be really comfortable in the days in between. And finally, this is a project that I had the privilege of working on while I was with Hamilton Anderson, but I bring it to you today because of the intimate connections through this of working with the community to tell a story. The whole program for the design was to tell the story of the company's founders and their ideas that led to discoveries that allowed the economy of that community to grow. And so without getting into the details, I'll just say that every stone, every material, every wall, every tree species were specifically selected to help build and tell that story. And so it's really crafted for that those personal reasons. And we could have done this with an interpretive sign, could have said, here's all the stuff that happened, here's the dates, this is everything. But the idea was to actually create an experience that felt like you were discovering something. It created the sense of discovery through the experience of the place. And that's the kind of thinking, those are the kind of places that we like to create because they build memories that you can't get simply by going into a nicely designed public space and reading a sign. 1001 Woodward, this is downtown Detroit, just on the edge of Campus Martius Park, windswept plaza, little tiny space, but now it's really crafted to create this kind of intimate environment that is also great all year round. So there's fire, there's heat, there's canopy, and there's light.
I think one of the great things about this space is it really shows our integration of our architecture, our engineering, our lighting design, and our landscape design. The space has won many design awards, but it's also a space that now is inhabited almost every day, throughout the day and throughout the evening, all through the season. It's really kind of a very special space. You can see from the detailing, the lighted canopy, as you can see through it. You can see from the office buildings down into the space, from the space up into the office buildings. It's really quite elegant. To speak a little bit about architecture, because you have an architect here standing in front of you, just a couple of projects. I had the opportunity to work with the Fetzer Institute about 25 years ago. When we started this project, our goal was to make it that it would be better 10 years after it was built. And I think we would bring the same kind of ideas to Royal Oak, is that it isn't about the day it opens, it's about the fulfillment of that dream, especially when you're talking about a lot of landscape architecture where that has to grow up into space. And so whatever architecture there is, that single meldedness, that one of sight and architecture becomes together. Lori and I have just been working on this for the next phase of this project, and we'll be very much trying to implement the same kind of thinking. At Indian Springs Metro Park, we did a nice little education center in the middle of a large metro park. This is where they're educating kids about the wetlands. And so the building is purposely set for that. That's very much like what we try to do, is understand what it's for and design it for that purpose. So it's about the water, it's about the wetlands. So the building sits above the water, right? And then we have a number of pathways around the water. So the kids coming here can learn about it around the water. And of course, how do you learn about a wetlands if you can't get into the water? So we have an underwater classroom, the same kind of thing. It's kind of a very innovative space, but it allows for that sort of very strong connection, which is what we'll look for. And just to sort of talk about the reality of what we talk about here in our the context of Royal Oak. This is my house. It's about 2 blocks over there. And it was designed very specifically to be part of the neighborhood. It was very much designed to have a street engagement. There's a nice front porch, side porch, back porch. It's all really pretty nice. But it fits within the neighborhood. And that was very much part of what we were trying to do, is make it purposely Royal Oak. So we always have neighbors come by and say, your house looks like it belongs in Royal Oak. And that's a very pleasing sentiment to have. So let's talk about them.
So you asked us about our project approach and what our deliverables were in each task. We did outline those there, and I'm happy to go into more detail, but I'll just run through it a little bit. In the kickoff, we're doing inventory and analysis. That's our research phase. Lori talked a little bit about that earlier. Where we get into the schematic design, the design development, in those phases we're producing documents for you. We're producing them with you through our process of engagement, but those are sort of checkpoints along the way that you can sort of see where we're at. We can have those very detailed conversations about where the design is headed. We also, you'll notice there's a opinion of probable construction cost, which we provide in several phases. I think it's very important that we are designing adhering to your budget and that we are mindful of that the entire process. And so that's why you see that reappear at a number of key milestones. And in the end, in construction documents, we're preparing, those final documents for you and specifications that this can be bid to contractors so that your vision can be built in a way that is economical and efficient and really sort of brings that vision to life.
When it comes to public engagement at Smith Group, our foundational principles of how we go about the entire design process is building it on our client, our people-focused design. And no better example of that is going to be this amazing new asset where we are today. And I think building upon the meaningful engagement process that already has taken place, it's going to be important for us to continue to bring the public throughout with us in the design process for something that's going to be their park, their plaza, their civic space that really is going to be the most tangible thing that we use as residents, probably the most, although I still have to, pay my water bill and come into City Hall. But I think the opportunity as it is, will be a gathering space, is to gather people throughout the process so they can have a robust role in the design. We will base our ideas on the look and feel, but having them be tested throughout the process will be really important so that we make sure that the public understands that did we hear you correctly? Did we understand what you meant when you said you liked this about this park? And so bringing all of that together will be really important. As Allison mentioned throughout the process, we'll have a variety of different touch points, and this is, we love to do public engagement, would love to do a lot of it, but we want to really work with you to pinpoint when it makes the most sense to be able to have those points where the public and meeting with yourselves and understanding the better nature of what really is working and what's not, so that we don't get to a point at the end where we don't agree on what it should be. So really having that be a partnership and a collaboration that's very robust throughout the entire process is key to our engagement strategy.
So with that, we really want to start to have that dialogue with you. None of the design, no design of a public park is possible without a ongoing dialogue. And we already have questions. We already have ideas that we'd like to explore with you through that dialogue. And go ahead.
So being a resident for the past 36 years here, when I moved to Royal Oak, many of you remember you could get your vacuum cleaner fixed on Main Street. Those days are long gone, right? We've gone through a grand transition from those early days and made a wonderful, vibrant community. And right now, as we see it, we're doing that again, right? Downtown is getting densified. We have the high-rise housing starting to come around more downtown. We're starting to develop office structures downtown of multiple floors. The more it gets densified, the more critical this park is going to be to Royal Oak. It is the urban park of downtown, and as these buildings continue to grow, and they will, it's going to become more and more a purpose here to really understand really what it is we want to do and what it is that makes it Royal Oak's downtown park.
So of course, we have the chance to, through the process and along with the community, to influence what happens here, but we're also really interested in the way that the things that are already here can influence the park. And, everything from the special features that are already there and how they become integrated or reintegrated into the design. The role and the opportunity for, I can see it now, specimen trees that are here that could be carefully protected and rewoven in because they're so special to what makes a great open space. But really, the bottom line is to create a place that's really welcoming and engaging for the community and for visitors so that everyone who comes feels that they belong. That's what a real public place needs to be. And I think our MO on all of our work is to have that as the ultimate outcome. We want people to come here and walk away saying, that place was for me, that felt right, I felt like I should be there, and frankly, I want to go back again. So with that, we're open for questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from the members of the task force?
I saw in one of your parks that you had also done some stuff with technology, like mobile apps and things like that. Is that also something that we could explore at some point potentially?
Certainly, that is an option. It's not something we've included in terms of that expertise in our scope of work, but those partnerships are a big part of it. The District of Detroit, we explored quite a bit of that, and I think we also have partners across industries relative to how parking links into these things and how programming management and schedule management works. So we have that at our fingertips. We have not included it,
Sure.
but it's certainly an opportunity.
Thank you.
Commissioner Douglas.
You're all going to hear this question from me, just be prepared. You said you like a lot of community engagement. Just reading through this, it appears you have a lot already built in my mind, and perhaps that of other members of the committee. We've done a lot of community engagement. We've spent a lot of time and money on it. We've done workshops, we've done storyboards, yada, yada, yada. What you've described here, how essential is that? And is there a way that we can peel that back a little bit, saving money and saving time?
So what we've included in our engagement is basically a workshop with the stakeholders. And this is our ability to hear directly from them, those translating. That's in the kickoff. So that's almost like that's the task force. That's any additional people that you think are in the community that should be readily involved in those conversations. So we can hear directly at the kickoff to the project that what we're reading and we're interpreting from all of the great information you've gleaned is we're on the right track heading forward. The two community meetings in schematic design is not only taking what we've heard and saying this is what we understand, but starting to test ideas with the community, right? So if we go to the drawing board, come back, 2 phases later with the design and haven't showed it to the community, that's probably not going to go over very well. So I think that those meetings are opportunities for us to kind of share progress, get input that can then feed the design to keep it moving forward. Now, we like to do those in a way that isn't just about standing up and giving a design and saying, what do you think? We like to actually break it down into parts and pieces, get into smaller groups so we can have some really meaningful dialogue and make sure that that everyone actually, for one, is participating. They don't just feel like they're participating, they actually are participating in the process. And that when they come out of those meetings, they come out of them feeling like, okay, I was able to have impact on this. I was able to learn what I needed to learn. And when I come back, I'm going to feel like it's mine. So we feel like what is in there is probably the right amount of touch points to come back and get that feedback through the process. Otherwise, they'll end up with a construction happening that they're not really feeling connected to.
Okay, good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The one, it seems to be very speculative at this point in terms of the water feature, and I'm wondering who does the water feature design at Smith Group? Do you have an outside consultant that does that? And how would you incorporate that?
Sure. We've done numerous water features, depending on the complexity and scale. We might partner with a specialist on that. Our in-house specialists relating to water tend to be coastal engineers and ice specialists and things that are a bit more not particularly related to a small urban park.
Okay.
And so we do have partners that we've worked with in the past that depending, if that became an element in the park, we could engage them, not a problem.
So just to clarify, during schematic design, we will keep the window open to all of the opportunities. If water feature comes in, we will start to shape what the possibilities for that could be, what the systems for it might need to be, what the cost for it might be, the design of it might be. And if you decide to move forward with that based on all of the other parameters, then we would bring that team member in. So we have not assumed there will be a water feature. We have not engaged a water feature consultant at this point. That's something that we would be happy to explore through schematic design if it became a thing that was right, and then would go from there to decide if we needed to shift things around or add that to the scope.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For coming and sharing your ideas. We're going to take a 5-minute break to let the other group kind of get set up and give us a chance to take a quick break.
touching it. Yeah.
How are you tonight? Good. I know I sound terrible, but believe me, I'm so much better than I was.
Were you sick?
I've been sick since for a month.
Oh my gosh.
5 weeks. I had this like a virus that just wouldn't go away, and then turned into bronchitis, and finally got put on antibiotics, and I'm finally like feeling human again.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just got back from dancing. My mom had her knee replaced.
Oh, well, that's like, these days,
Right, we're on number 2, so this is the second one in 6 months. So
Yeah.
just put enough quality time together for a while. Let me just be honest.
Good. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Where are we here now? Now I can breathe again. All right, who's next? PEA. PEA. Thank God I went to PEE.
Three more to go.
We lost him.
Yeah.
He's close. We know that.
Put him on house tether.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting back to order here. And our next presenter is PEA.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having us tonight. We're really pleased to be here. This is such an exciting project. We're just pleased that you invited us to be here tonight. So I'm Jeff Smith from PEA, and I'm going to introduce Mike Franklin here. He's also from PEA.
Hi.
And I'm just going to talk about our team a little bit and how we assembled it and some of our experience. Then I'm going to hand it off to Mike to talk about the design. And we also have some of our partners here. Oh, that's really bright. Bert Jenkins and Michael Guthrie and Bob White and Nicole. So we have a bunch of PEA, and he's from Inform Studio. So they're here to answer your questions. So we just represent the design team and the management team of the project. So we'd be the ones you'd be working with, primarily Mike and myself. So you had asked how we assembled our team. Super bright. How we assembled our team, and we have a number of partners on this. We have Peter Basso and Associates, Resurgent Engineering, Liquid Assets, and that's the structural, the mechanical and electrical engineer, and the irrigation consultant. And these are firms we work with on a regular basis. These are long-term partners with us, and that's important when we're collaborating, that we have a familiarity with our team. And then we added Illuminart, who's Bob White is here, and they are a lighting designer. We do lighting design, but we wanted to bring someone a little bit more innovative into the process, because we think that's going to be an important component. And then our primary design partner is Inform Studio, and we added them to the team specifically. You keep asking about engagement. There's been so much done already and so much input that's been done. In really looking through that report, we were looking for just the right partner. And Inform Studio, they're a very creative, innovative, kind of more contemporary design style. And we kept seeing throughout the visual assessment report that some of the projects that had a little bit more of a contemporary flair were rating really high, like higher than the traditional ones. So we figured that's what Inform's known for, and their style of design kind of married with our style of landscape architecture combined really creates a nice design team. And then on top of it, and we work together on a regular basis. So we have a really good working relationship already. So all told, we have maybe about 25 different individuals on this team, but again, the managers, designers are here tonight. You asked about project team experience, and this one was a little tough because every project is so completely different, and I'll give you a perfect example. You asked specifically who worked on projects. This one was Mike Franklin. Since here's one of the design team leads here, I'm going to show you some of his stuff. This is in downtown Northville, and this is a project that Mike did a lot of the detailing on. This is a number of years ago. But it's just, we included it not to say that this is what we think it should look like here, but just because it's really well executed. If you were to go visit this there, it's just a really successful public space in Northville and really well done, and all the details were really well done. But to give you an example of another one Mike did in downtown Detroit, this is kind of an urban park space on a rooftop, and Mike was the lead designer on this and did all the detailing. And it's just obviously like completely different than the other one. And it just shows you with design, we really respond to the community needs. So in this case, there's a younger targeted audience. Northville's very traditional Main Street. That's what the community engagement was showing. This is a kind of a young urban vibe. The client wanted kind of this funky, eclectic design. So Mike executed that and did a really good job. Again, we're not saying that this is what you're looking for. This is a very unique project, but it's a very successful space. And we look at every design process is going to kind of be born out of that we're going to go through this process and determine solutions that are appropriate for the site. So, and this is a project, this is not a park, obviously, this is a bridge that Inform Studio did, but we just included this because it's a pedestrian bridge, just to show you how their philosophy design, that pedestrian bridges are often very boring. They're just kind of pre-canned structures you can buy. And in this case, they were able to kind of illustrate design through the structural components of this in a very artistic way. And again, another very successful project, very technically challenging, but it's a beautiful project. We're most excited about all the projects we have in the works now. We have about 6 or 7. Actually, there's more than that projects. Most of them local here. They're in various stages of completion. Some are almost constructed. Some are just going under construction. This one downtown, Riverside Park, Phase 3 and 4. This is one we're working on. Again, design team, Mike Franklin, myself, Burke Jenkins. We're the design team on this. And it has a lot of the same components. It has water features, it has playgrounds and amphitheaters and outdoor dining and plaza space and event space. But it's a much bigger space than this. There's a lot of green space involved in it as well. But a complicated project, and that's an exciting project for Detroit. And right next to it, literally on the other side of the Ambassador Bridge, is the West Riverfront Park, or the Ralph Wilson Centennial Park. Now, this is a massive project. This is one of the most expensive, probably the most expensive park project being built in Michigan, and a major undertaking. So this is a really big design team. We are obviously not the only ones working on this. There's a big international design team. It's being led by Michael Van Valkenburg from New York, but we're providing the site engineering solutions for it. And Burke Franklin, did I say it? Burke Jenkins is managing that on behalf of PEA for us. And it's a really exciting project. And then we have a whole bunch of other ones in Detroit that we're working on. Capitol Park is right out in front of our office. Burke's also managing the engineering component of that one. And then Upper Riverfront Parks, it's actually 3 projects. We're doing landscape architecture solutions on that Burke and myself have been involved with. That is very involved, a lot different. That's very sustainable design, using a lot of stormwater infiltration, native plantings, which could definitely be a component of your park, but it's also a major component of these parks. It would probably be a smaller component of your park. And 4th Street Bridge, which is a fantastic project, it's wrapped up. The design, now all of our work on these is actually complete. It's just that they're coming under construction this summer. 4th Street Bridge Park is a really neat little park where it's some sidewalks, interpretive historic park, really great design, and also, again, a lot of plantings, rain gardens, rainwater infiltration kind of demonstration things that we'd be looking to incorporate into your park so that there would be zero stormwater runoff would be the goal. And Inform Studio, this is a really cool project in Providence, Rhode Island. And this is actually, looks like a bridge, but it's actually like a lineal park. So it's actually considered as park space over the river. So there's a lot of programmed areas on this for different events to take place and activities. And again, you can see how they execute design. It's just very visually pleasing. And this one's basically complete. I would say it's going to be open a couple weeks. Summer, basically. they're wrapping it up, they're just doing some punch list stuff. So this one's basically about just a really beautiful project. And one that we included that's just kind of getting out of the way in Detroit, that's an Inform Studio project that has a lot of the components that I could see your project in Royal Oak. This is probably the most similar one to what we're talking about. Because if you really look at this image, you can see there's a little performance stage. There's art, there's movable furniture, there's some soft landscaping, there's water features. And this park could kind of be rearranged because it's very flexible. It could be used in all sorts of different ways. You could have a big event here, you could have small events. A really nice space. A really well-done project. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mike to talk a little bit about the design process and the deliverables and how we're going to go through that.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Task Force, for giving us the opportunity to speak about our proposal. It's my honor to be able to represent the design team here and talk about our vision for this project. We really can't start without just having a little bit of a definition of what we think a successful project would be. And if we were to be able to get this project, it would be a design that's a vibrant people's place that is heavily used, embraced by the people of all ages, is designed to be flexible and evolve over time to stay exciting, relevant, and to be truly an authentically Royal Oak projects. And so how exactly are we going to achieve that? Well, for us, it's process. And so in our proposal, we provided you 5 phases: conceptual, schematic, design development, construction documentation, construction administration. And we're going to follow those, obviously, those phases. But we feel in that first phase, that conceptual phase, is probably the most critical in capturing really the essence of what this park could eventually become. And so, fortunately for us, the task, or the city and this task force had the foresight to reach out to the community and generate an incredibly detailed report that truly is a collection of great statements, interpretations of what the people really are looking for in this park. And so what we're planning to do is really just take that report and that look and feel report and really analyze and extract those critical program elements out of the report, and then figure out how we can implement those into design options and create conceptual designs. And then, again, re-engage with those same people, the city, stakeholder groups, and the people groups, and present our designs. We don't really want to recreate the wheel here. We don't want to really do a lot of public engagement. We want to use the information that's been already provided to us, come up with ideas, start that conceptual process, come up with those conceptual ideas, present them, go on to that schematic design, evolve, change, hone in on that master plan, and go right into design development, construction documentation, and then finally getting the project built. That is our approach. That's what we would like to do for this project. So our design philosophy for us really is, and it really hones in on that, on the report, is that first and foremost, this design should reflect the people of Royal Oak. It reflects really that there's a lot of interest, will be a lot of uses. If you can see in this graphic, we've got a lot of overlapping of all these different uses, and we kind of feel like that's kind of the way this space is going to be. The design will be kind of an overlapping use of, or that was that overlapping design of a lot of different uses, and that's what we want to do. That'll be flexible, and it'll sort of evolve over time. But we're also obviously very responsible. We have our civil engineering PEA group, and then we will definitely be responsible for making sure we take care of those necessary functional design requirements, the infrastructure, utilities, drainage, grading and drainage, security, restrooms, all those things. We feel like obviously that is important. Obviously, that is the framework for the park, but we want to also be able to have a design that's very flexible as well, that incorporate all these different sort of uses. So what exactly does make a great place, or in this case, a great park? It's obviously a place we feel that over time will just stay interesting, and that the elements, again, will reflect and respond to the users. And in order to do that, we feel like there's some attributes that we really want to key on. So this is a graphic that it's fairly common, but it's what makes a great place. And we're going to really key on these four attributes, and we feel like they're critical in creating this space that we're going to create for you and design for you. But they have to be a sort of a balance between uses and activities, sort of the image or that feel that the project or the space is going to exhibit. They need to have a great linkage, accessibility to the community around it, and have a sociability to it, in which there's sort of just the civic character for the area. Now, one of the things that we're starting to see, and Jeff already mentioned that we're right next to the Capitol Park, and one of the sort of the interesting trends we're starting to see in parks is this sort of use of temporary site amenities to sort of revitalize and rejuvenate spaces. And those sort of occur in the form of temporary movable furniture, art displays, seasonal plant displays, interesting use of accent lighting and things like that. If you look at the picture up above, that is a pop-up park in Kansas that we came across. And it's not our project, but we thought it really is a good example of how you can use some interesting pieces to create kind of an interesting space. That the space wasn't all that great to begin with, but a wooden spool for a table, colorful furniture, interesting string lighting, a little bit of landscape, and a really cool architectural or artistic piece makes that sort of kind of drab little alleyway area into sort of a vibrant, alive eating space. The two pictures below are a couple little roof deck projects that I worked on in downtown Detroit. You can see the Rent Center across the way there. But again, it's just sort of the interesting use of wood, metal, interesting plants, pots and plants, artificial plant material, interesting use of topiary figurines, and the key piece is the fact that we have these sort of colorful, interchangeable furniture pieces, which we think, and we're starting to see, especially like in Capitol Park, Cadillac Boulevard, where they're being introduced, and they really sort of can take these areas which have been sort of historically underutilized and sort of revitalize them. So we think that we can take these same concepts, the same concept of sort of movable sort of transient site amenities, incorporate into more of a permanent design, and that will help over time keep the space fresh and revitalized. It won't get stale. It'll always sort of continually go along with the sort of the wants and needs of the people. So we think that's sort of an interesting concept, and we'd like to sort of look into that and see if that's something that we can incorporate into this particular design. Now, another design element that we are incorporating in a lot of our designs, and this picture right here is Riverside Park, downtown Detroit, that Burke's working on. But one of the things that, as you see it, I mean, it looks like it's just a pedestrian space, but what you don't know, that's actually the terminus of West Grand Boulevard. So normally, there would be cars there, people coming along, dropping off, if you wanted to go fish, walk along the boardwalk, engage in the park. It's mostly vehicular, but because we want our spaces to be designed that would be not just singular use, but multiple uses, we can shut that space off, we can turn it into a festival seating area, we can bring food trucks in there, and it becomes more of a dynamic space that's used for a lot of different things. So that's, again, another design element that we definitely want to incorporate into the design of this downtown park here. Now, one of the things that we noticed in the report, and again, a great report, is just the use, and what always seemed to come up was these two parks, Cumberland River Park and the Highline New York Park. And what was sort of interesting about it, and I'll just read it, the design aesthetic that related to the highest were these parks where the design provided a balance of green space with bold, crisp, contemporary geometry that help define the user spaces. And so if you look at that Cumberland Park, which is really kind of neat, they used sort of a curvilinear shape in sort of the pedestrian walkway to create individual spaces. And then in those individual spaces, you have water features, play areas, climbing walls. They introduced artificial plant material, interesting seating areas, the introduction of composite materials that you wouldn't necessarily maybe always use. And the same thing with the Highline. You know, it's just a kind of a linear space, but very clean use of hardscape, seating, plant material, and lighting. And so it was well done. And again, these are some of those aesthetics that we want to, and we'll obviously incorporate into this design that we would like to do for you. Our partner, Inform Studio, they worked on this project. This is in Lansing. And again, it is just another example, the use of lines, geometric shapes, to help sort of define, design the overall space, right? This was a highly programmed space in which a lot of these different areas, whether it was the hardscape or the landscape areas, are being used for multiple purposes. If you notice in the back, there's a little amphitheater area space in there. Well, obviously you can use it for shows at certain times of the year. You could do daytime lectures. The students could use to sit down and study or whatever, what have you, in the course of the day. So these are the things that we'll be thinking about as we are designing your space. Multiple uses. Now, another quote or statement that we came across in the report, which we thought was just, really appropriate, especially for sort of sustainability, the idea of sustainability, and innovation, is that the people wanted this living, breathing, interactive landscape. And so, again, a project, it's an AIA nationally awarded project that our partner Inform Studio worked on, really sort of typifies that, which they've incorporated, a green roof. We've got, the opportunity for rain gardens, porous paving. There's obviously different materials and mediums are being used here, wood, steel, that all could be sort of recycled if you wanted to do that. But then what's also kind of innovative in this is that they incorporated an interactive display wall, which can be pretty exciting for people who are coming to be a part of or want to go to the space. It's sort of educational, it's interactive, it's colorful, it's bright. It's pretty exciting. It just kind of gives a little bit more life to the space. And another element that obviously we'll be incorporating into our design, and our other partner, Bob White with Illuminart, was for Beacon Park here, was just the use of lighting. And, this is, obviously LED, low impact, indirect lighting, but just look what it does to the space. It just kind of brings it alive and just makes it very interesting for the user. So, sort of in summary, we're wanting to come up with, and we'll develop and are excited to come up with a design which is sort of bold, that's able to generate some pretty unique spaces. And so we'll use, the introduction of light and color and texture and geometric shapes and lines to do so we can sort of bring people into the space. And sort of those green spaces obviously will allow people to want to just stay in those spaces. Because obviously, to summarize, this design that we would like to that we're wanting to come up with, it should, obviously evolve. It should be flexible. We want it to be able to be designed for multiple uses, not just singular uses. That we can use some sort of innovative use of site furnishings to make sure that it remains and it's programmed to be vibrant and exciting and alive for many, many, many years. And then mostly that it just celebrates the people of Royal Oak. I would be remiss if I didn't say something about sort of the historical significance of some of the elements that are already here. The Star Dream sculpture obviously is a key component, and it would be a focal point for our design, as well as the War Memorial, and to not consider the sort of significance that Royal Oak is a Tree City, USA. Obviously, that would be incorporated into this design as well. So historically, we'll definitely want to include all those elements into the design, but obviously mostly, it's the people that we want to, and we just think the people of this community are very interesting, and they'll reflect really kind of the design of this space that we're wanting to design for you. Let me go to the deliverables here. I modified this a little bit to incorporate the tasks that were part of the price breakdown that you guys were asking for. So I put a different sort of pre-conceptual design bubble on there, which would pick up kickoff, site inventory, survey, geotechnical. But this listing of the work plan here has all of the different tasks that you had line item on your sheet that you asked us to fill in the numbers for. And so we've included that. I mean, I can certainly go through each one of these deliverables. I don't know if it's necessary to do so, but I would want to at least just open it up for questions. If you had any more questions about those deliverables, I'd be more than happy to, or the team would be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll turn to the members of the task force and see if they have any questions on the deliverables or on any other aspect of your presentation. Commissioner Douglas.
So what is the role of, where does PEA leave off and Inform begin? And I ask that question because I'm looking at the breakouts that the staff did of, your hourly rates, and it seems like in the crucial stages where Inform would be very involved, that is the preliminary and concept design and the final design and master plan, it seems like they are a small percentage of the overall work. So how are you using them?
Well, I can speak to that. So, in the conversations we've had with Inform Studio, that's sort of the breakdown as in our partnership, and they'll be obviously heavily involved with the conceptual design phases and the schematic phase. But it's the once we get sort of into that CD level, it's sort of based on whether
CD
construction document level, whether we decide to end up using having architectural elements, restrooms, pavilions, things like that. Then we do have a breakdown of what their fees would be for that, and then those obviously would be included as well. That's just how the numbers broke out. They're still going to be heavily involved in the conceptual and schematic and sort of the creative side of the project. But
Like a lot of the heavy lifting of the drawing would be done by PEA's part on the landscape architecture side, so they're providing more design input. And that's what Mike was saying, if we got more into structures down the road, then their level of work's gonna get a lot more involved.
And their fee obviously would be higher.
That's why their fee's kind of broken out as higher on some of those alternate tasks.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No. What is Peter Basso Associates doing?
Mechanical and electrical engineering?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next presenter is Hamilton Anderson. A few minutes to get up here. Yes, whenever you are ready, you may start.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnston. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Farlow. I am here to represent the design team of Hamilton Anderson Associates. We're located in Detroit. And like all of the teams that you've met tonight and the ones that you'll meet in a few moments, we're excited to be here. We, as a firm, have a deep knowledge of urban and suburban neighborhoods. We understand urban spaces and the buildings and people that activate them. Hamilton Anderson has a long history of working with other design teams and complex clients like municipalities, as well as cultural and civic institutions. Hamilton Anderson is also an MBE, a minority business enterprise. We have logged over 25 years of practice in an office located in Detroit. We started where we are today. We are an example of a truly integrated practice because we offer the services of architecture, landscape architecture, interior design, and urban planning. If we could move to the next slide. Do I do that? So we have a small agenda that we can let you look at here. We'll go through all of the points in bold in just a minute. First, we'll introduce the Hamilton Anderson team. Megan, if we can go forward. Is it working? One more? This is a picture of Rainey Hamilton. As you can see, he is a staunch supporter of Detroit, raised in Detroit, educated in Detroit public schools, and graduate of the University of Detroit Mercy Architecture Program. If we can go to the next slide. Our team will be led by a project manager and landscape architect, Christopher Riggert, who's here tonight with us. Megan Dicio, who's helping us with the slides right now. She is also one of our landscape architects. And Devin Quick, who is one of our site designers. And yours truly, I will serve as the principal in charge. I also serve the company as the director of design. And some of you may know me. I am a former treasurer of the Royal Oak Historical Commission for over 4 years. And I actually think I have Mr. Urbanic beat in this piece of information. I've been a Royal Oak resident since 1961, so I go way back. Thanks, Paul. I think I lapped him. Let's move on to one of our lead consultants, OHM, and have Patrick come forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Droz. I'm a civil engineer, but also a project manager with OHM Advisors. We are one of the city's preferred civil engineering consultants, and we've been proud to be providing that service to the city for a number of years. And as we work with Hamilton Anderson on a pretty regular basis, when this opportunity came up, a community that we work in and are familiar with, and a consultant that we also partner with regularly, it seemed like a great opportunity to get the team back together here. And so we were very excited when the opportunity presented itself to work together. So you know us as civil engineers. We do surveying and utility design, and we also do modeling for wet weather events. But we also have another of other engineers under our roof. You can pass it along here, that we're going to bring to this project. As with most urban projects, they're complex in nature. And while the look and feel package presents a number of ideas and opportunities within the park, there's also a lot of things that need to happen below the surface on this park. Utilities, we have to deal with the building that we're going to take down. We have to also deal with the stormwater, not only from the park, but from the surrounding properties, and use this park as an opportunity to be a showpiece for how you can manage stormwater in an urban environment. It's very complex and difficult to do at times, but the city being a leader in this position with this opportunity is a great opportunity to kind of show that to the residents that the city is leading by example in many ways. In addition, we also look at the utilities itself. We want to make this a park that's flexible. We want to make it a park that's safe. So that means a lot of things. It means making sure that utilities are in locations that are convenient, make this a park that can be used for many types of uses. And then we also want to look at the safety of the park. We are in an urban environment. Our drivers are used to certain situations within cities. We have people that come to the city that aren't used to the city. So we want to make sure that the surroundings of the park are done in a safe way, where we're thinking about traffic engineering principles. We're using different textures when we come up to intersections where we have crossings that you might not expect. We want to make sure that the people visiting the park, coming to the park from the neighborhoods, feel safe doing that. The people pushing strollers can do that in an easy way, and it's an easy way to get in and around the park. So that's the civil aspects. We also have other engineering that we'll bring into this, whether it's electrical engineering, structural, even MEP. We have all those services within house, which we are prepared to bring to the Hamilton Anderson team as necessary as the project evolves. Look forward to some questions later if you have any on civil.
I'd like to bring up Don Carpenter now for just a moment. He can introduce himself.
Happy to be here as well. So I'm Don Carpenter. I'm a green stormwater infrastructure specialist, also a community engagement specialist who's worked in Royal Oak, and we're going to be talking about those projects in a little bit. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Don. Carrie Suhan of TEC, located in Troy, is another consultant of ours. He's our geotechnical engineer. And if we can move forward. I'd like to pass the baton over to Chris Riggert, our project manager and landscape architect now.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you to the task force for having us this evening. We're really excited to be here. I want to introduce to you our understanding and approach to this project and what we'll bring with us. I want to start by saying we understand some of the challenges that Royal Oak is facing. There's a lot of changes that are coming, that have happened, that are exciting but can cause pause for residents. And so we understand that and will respond to that within this project and see this as a real opportunity. Instead of starting from a plan or a diagram of the site, I want to start actually from the look and feel package that you guys have worked on, and I want to commend you for that work. It's a very comprehensive document, and it'll provide the foundation for our work moving forward. And if you advance to the next slide, we're happy to see a number of landscapes that we actually often reference in our own work to inspire us. And our task ahead of us is to develop the recipe that makes a park that's at home in downtown Royal Oak, and specifically in downtown Royal Oak, and speaks to its past, its present, and its future. If you want to go to the next slide, there's really two scales or sliders that I would view this on. And so the first is form. What does this look like? And there's two sides to this. There's the comfortable, the familiar, the known, a place that can evoke nostalgia. On the other side is the novel, the new, and the unique, the things that provide fresh and new experiences. And a park is really a balance, and any public space is really a balance between these two sides. And so what we've done is we've just charted the comments that we've read from the look and feel outcomes on this spectrum. So for example, a comment like, I would like to keep as much vintage charm to the city as possible, or I would like to feel calm and comfortable. Those call for a park that is comfortable, that's familiar, that's nostalgic, versus comments like, we need to promote our local artists, or this park should add a quote-unquote cool factor, speak more to a more contemporary or novel approach within our design. The other slider or scale that I'd like to speak to is the function. How does this park actually work, and how does it fit into the daily lives of Royal Oak citizens? And so on one side is the active, the programmed, and the defined, versus the passive, the unprogrammed, and the flexible, a space that residents are able to use how they see fit. And so a comment that says something like, it's important that our parks are not empty and unused, it needs to have features that draw people to it, speaks to the need for program, versus I prefer a park that has more green space and plantings, a place to take a break, and a beautiful atmosphere may speak to more of a passive atmosphere within the park. And when we combine those two things together, we come to the recipe for what this park needs to be, and what's going to make this a unique park that's at home, really only in downtown Royal Oak. And if we go to the next slide as well, this is a slide that speaks really to our approach as a design firm, and I am going to let Mark take this away.
Thank you, Chris. This is really kind of a simple diagram that illustrates, again, those four design disciplines that we have within our own house. Again, urban planning, landscape architecture, interior design, and architecture. And this diagram shows how those disciplines rub up against one another, how they operate together, how they operate in a truly collaborative fashion. The other thing that I think is important is the notion of the sort of circular or elliptical arrow. That line indicates that even though we're all a group of constellations working together, we're also moving forward. And so we are a dynamic institution, and that will, I think, produce some very positive outcomes for us. There are a number of projects that Hamilton Anderson can share with you tonight. As I mentioned, we've been practicing in the city of Detroit for over 25 years, and many of these projects are in municipalities just like Royal Oak. These are some of these legacy projects. Clinch Park in downtown Traverse City. Washington Boulevard in downtown Detroit. right along the sort of western edge of downtown. Elmont Park, a park whose size and sense of character is actually a fairly nice comparable to the size and character of what could be the Royal Oak Park. And if you want to talk a little bit more about your work, Megan?
Yeah.
And I'll take care of the...
I'm Megan, landscape architect with Hamilton Anderson. And I think we have some amazing and beautiful legacy projects through Hamilton Anderson, and we wanted to take a moment too to just speak to how that legacy has attracted new talent to our firm, and one of them being here. I'm moved here from California a couple years ago. I'm a resident of Madison Heights, and I will be working with Chris Rigert on this project. Just wanted to speak to a couple projects of comparable scale that I've worked on during my time in California. One was the BART Lake Merritt Plaza, which is a subway station at the heart of Oakland, California's Chinatown. And this had a diverse stakeholder group. It was a transit authority property, but the city was obviously a stakeholder. The business community, it being in the heart of Chinatown, a community college, and of course, multiple different, not just Chinese residents or Chinese American residents, but from all sorts of Pan-Asian communities. And so we did an extensive amount of community engagement around this, building off of some preliminary work that the subway transit system had already done in similar fashion to what we would see doing here. And then Hayward Library and Park and Plaza, I see a lot of parallels with this project because this project was a historic library site that was, they had determined the library program that they needed to expand could not work on this site, and that they were going to move it to an adjacent parcel, which gave them the opportunity to turn the existing site into a library and build it. They built a net zero building that's going to complete construction here soon, and they'll be beginning the site construction of this project. They're similar to what the gentleman from MKSK introduced in the beginning. We're converting that basement into rainwater catchment reservoir. But all the rainwater catchment from the buildings is going to be recycled for toilets, but also for the irrigation of the site. And there is also, it being California, very extensive stormwater and green infrastructure approaches on that site that I'm very familiar with. It's also a historic arboretum, and so there's a strong balance, as you can see in the plan, between a civic gathering area that we had to kind of wedge in there, as well as balancing that with lots of intimate spaces where people can just rest and relax and have more passive enjoyment of the park. Are you using?
Yeah. Thanks, Megan. Let's go through a couple of, maybe I would say more current projects offered by Hamilton Anderson Associates tonight. One is the master plan and landscape architecture design for City Modern Detroit. City Modern Detroit is under construction as we speak. It's located in historic Brush Park. And the notable sort of component of Brush Park City Modern and the landscape architecture that we brought to this particular neighborhood is the Muse, which is actually cutting right through the heart and the middle of this development. It's a pedestrian-only meandering path that will end up connecting to yet a new development just south of there that will begin construction next year. So this shows you the scale of the Muse, and it shows you the quality of those spaces, the intimacy that they portray. But we also created public spaces for Brush Park City Modern by capturing outdoor space within the second floor of a brand new building. This building is called A6 by the owner, and you can see that this is an outdoor plaza raised up off the street for the homeowners and for the homeowners within the entire development at City Modern Detroit. Our friends in Southfield commissioned Hamilton Anderson to help them understand what a piece of land across the street from their city hall and their library could become. How could they sell this land and achieve for it the maximum allowable price? And so they asked us to present for them the sort of highest and best use of that property. And so this is our snapshot of that potential development. Similarly, and Chris was directly involved in the Civic Center for downtown Inkster, along Michigan Avenue, there was the potential for development to occur there, and we created recipes, if you will, for mixed-use developments that would add density and character to an otherwise sort of vacant site, and yet privileging outdoor community space, park-like spaces for this new development. And then I'm going to bring back Megan, because this is one of her favorite projects.
Yes, so in 2017, Hamilton Anderson developed the Parks and Recreation Master Plan for the city of Ferndale, as well as a master plan update overall. And in 2018, we were awarded a contract as their on-call landscape architect for their entire Parks and Rec system. So I've been working with the city, with Lorena and their DPW, currently, we're working on planning and design for 5 parks in that district. They range from the 1/10 acre Schiffer Park downtown up to the 32 acre Martin Road Park. Schiffer, which is the one you see here, will be starting construction here in a couple months, hopefully sooner rather than later. And it's not comparable in scale to this park, obviously being just 1/10 of an acre, but in its ambition of balancing a civic focal point and gathering place, as well as opportunities for flexible programming and activated uses, and also more intimate spaces. Packed a lot in there. And then we've also are working on the Wanda Park and Geary Park, if you're familiar with those. Those will both be under construction with their first phase of work this summer. And here you can see, if you go. Yeah. This is a preliminary early on concept. This isn't what's being constructed this summer, but some of the work we did with the city of Ferndale early on re-envisioning this park, which is primarily now either active recreation or passive use, into a more dynamic contemporary space that incorporates a civic gathering component, as well as supporting the other park programming that they envision for that site.
A few projects here that we are working on with OHM. As Patrick said, we do work very closely and have a strong team dynamic. And while these projects may not be direct analogs to the type of project that we're undertaking here, I think they do represent our integration well. This is a master plan, a rendering from a master plan we're developing for the Solanus Casey Center in downtown Detroit, or excuse me, in the Near East Side of Detroit. It's really a master plan to expand their campus and integrate properties that they own throughout a heavily impacted neighborhood to really stabilize the neighborhood and activate the landscape to a higher and better use. And so this rendering shows a broad strokes landscape treatment that connects a future greenway into the Solanus Casey site. We're also working with OHM right now on a project with Wayne State University, their student housing project, which is an 860-bed apartment building that is almost fully complete right now. They're pouring concrete. They were pouring concrete today, so this work is underway. And I enjoy this project because it showcases well our integration of architecture and landscape. That shows, there's a lot of opportunities for indoor spaces to spill out into outdoor courtyards, such as this courtyard, which is really for commercial businesses, and the next space, which is more student circulation. I'd also like to quickly hit on innovation and sustainability. We try to bring innovation and sustainability to every project that we work on, and I'm ecstatic to see that that's a priority for the task force. We see a lot of opportunities here for this site to manage not just itself, but also the surrounding buildings. So we would be interested in integrating the library, integrating new construction, integrating the city hall into managing stormwater from those sites, potentially procuring solar energy from rooftops to power this park, and integrating green stormwater infrastructure. And with that, I'm going to invite Don to say a few words about some of the work that he's done and what he will bring to the team.
Thank you. I'll be brief. So one of the questions that we've heard before is, how does your team come together? How does your team interact with each other? And so as far as Drummond Carpenter, we've been working with OHM on multiple projects the last couple of years. Right now, we're working on the Huron-Clinton Metro Park Authority Master Plan, Stormwater Master Plan. We're also doing green stormwater infrastructure site assessments with DWSD. So I've got a multi-year history with OHM. And then Mark Farlow and I have a multi-decadal history of teaching studios and courses at Lawrence Technological University. So we've known each other for quite some time as instructors. As far as my familiarity with the city and what I'm bringing to the team in that regards, I was born in Royal Oak in 1971 and grew up at Woodward and Lincoln. So there's a lot of people in the room who have a long history with this community. More recently, I was co-author of the Royal Oak Green Infrastructure Evaluation Report, and the last time I had the pleasure of speaking in this opportunity was documenting where are opportunities to use alleyways or parks or parking lots and convert that to green stormwater usage and keep water out of the system to kind of alleviate some of the flooding and some of the issues that are happening with the regional drains. The other project we recently did here is part of the green infrastructure implementation. I did a community focus group in conjunction with engineering and the Environmental Action Board up at the Senior Civic Center, where we looked at, okay, what kind of GSI projects would be favorably received in the park projects. So like what parks could be kind of modified. And so that was a recent project we did here as well. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris, who's going to bring it home. Thank you.
Yes, within the time that we have allotted. So I want to quickly go over the project execution. If we go to the next slide, this is our high-level work plan of how we would execute this project. From the outset, we would work very closely with you and your partners to modify this plan to meet your needs. So this is just an outline, but we would begin with a kickoff where we would finalize our schedule, our engagement approach, and identify any stakeholders we need to bring on board. We would conduct our site analysis, and we would proceed into programming and schematic design, where we would develop 3 alternatives and hold a community engagement session to receive feedback on those sessions. We would then refine our plan and pause for a project evaluation milestone. And I just want to pause on that to describe that a little further, which is that we work in Detroit, we work in this market, we know that construction costs are astronomically high right now. We know the challenges of construction. And so this would be an opportunity for us to rectify our site design with a cost opinion and rectify our schedule. We would also, at this milestone, evaluate the roster of our consultant team. We do not have a specialized fountain consultant on board. We don't have a theater consultant on board. We have a diverse team of architects and landscape architects that are designers and problem solvers that can get through programming and schematic design. And once we understand what the needs are for this park, then we would look at, do we need to bring in specialists to be able to build a major theater, or do we need to look at an extensive water feature? And so, we won't know that really until that milestone, and that's when we would revisit that conversation. We would go through design development, where we would engage we'd have another community engagement session. We'd go through another project evaluation, where we'd rectify cost and schedule, proceed to CDs, and then bidding and construction administration. And we'll touch only briefly on community engagement, which I kind of explained, which is we have 2 engagement sessions built into our work plan. We think that's really the foundation of ensuring that our plan is going to meet the needs of the community. We also have 4 stakeholder engagement sessions built into our plan as well, where we would engage a larger business community or our larger stakeholder group to receive feedback. We have a schedule here, which is obviously, something we would workshop with you to ensure that we're going to be meeting the milestones of your schedule. And with that, I'd like to conclude our presentation and see if we have any time for questions.
Questions from the group? Commissioner Douglas.
Just, so there wouldn't, okay, so you've talked about, and this is really more directed towards our staff, and I understand and I like your idea of doing that sort of midpoint reassessment to see if there are other consultants or contractors you need to build in. We don't have an issue with that in terms of vetting those subsequent vendors, do we?
That was the purpose of the spreadsheet that we
Right.
provided you, because some people included those extra vendors.
Right.
And some of them did not.
Right.
So that was the purpose of the spreadsheet that we sent to all the participants to fill out, so that we could figure out who included what and who did not. Some people took deducts, some people gave us estimates of what it would cost to add. We don't have a problem with doing that at a midpoint. It just requires that on a Monday night, we'll be bringing you a change order. And I know how fun those are sometimes.
So, but actually, my real question is, should we be vetting those added vendors or contractors, or, and this is not just true of this team, but any of the other teams, do we just take it at face value that they, as the general contractor, will bring in suitable people and will bless that?
I believe we're counting on them to bring in suitable people, and if we don't like them for some reason, I'm sure we can negotiate that as well.
Okay.
If there's somebody we're totally unsatisfied with, we can tell them to try again and find another vendor.
Okay.
But we are allowing them to select who they want to bring on board for prior working relationships or whatever, so it's not going to be bid out or anything like that.
I understand. All right, thank you, that answers my question.
Other questions? No?
Pretty clear.
All right. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I'm going to be back in a jiffy.
Okay.
Oh, and other people will be too.
Two people here, just one?
Yes, Kyle is there. And then one here.
All right.
It's hard with no name tags.
There you go.
Thank you.
Right there. Here. Here. We seem to conjugate.
That's all right.
The table is tilted this way.
I know.
Just give us a few minutes to reassemble our team.
I know, isn't it crazy? Hi, Carol. Good, how are you?
Time has started. Good evening. My name is Robert Ford. I go by Bob Ford. and I'm with Landscape Architects and Planners, part of the consulting team. Jeff Huda, who's the president of Nowak and Fraus, is not with us tonight. He went on a honeymoon with his wife. We told him that he shouldn't go. He said, too bad, and he went anyhow. Now, he is on his way back from the airport. I doubt he'll make it in time, however. But I just want you to know that he wanted me to express his condolences that he couldn't be here in time to be part of this important conversation. Our team, if you could advance the slide. Our team consists of these groups that you see on the screen. Jeff Huda, which represents Nowak and Fraus, and Albert Kahn are the two primary participants in our team. And the other four are support to our team. And we are engaged in urban park design. Nowak and Fraus is in the center of this slide, and they are going to serve as the conduit by which all information will flow. Jeff has done this on many other projects. He will be your project manager, and he will make sure that everything is done on time and in budget. The rest of us are going to be working together, and there's multiple overlaps here because we are going to work as a collective. Our team, we've looked for the world class. We took world class seriously because you said you wanted a park that resembled world class. So we went after those people who represented some of the best work in this area. So with that, we have Albert Kahn, which is represented here as well. We have Krieger Klatt in architecture, outdoor design, in specializing in lighting, the Fountain People, specializing in fountains, and ourselves, landscape architects, specializing in landscape architecture. So that is our collective, and that's how we are going to assemble our team and work together. Okay. We're all aware of the document that was produced, the Downtown Park Public Engagement Process. We were the authors of that, Nowak and Fraus, and Landscape Architects and Planners. Through that process, we learned a lot of different things about what your community is about and what it's trying to strive for. It also wants world class. It also wants a park that can be very humble, comforting, and relaxing. So you have a dichotomy of sorts, but through that dichotomy, we're able to work with people and put it together so that you'll be able to achieve both goals. Okay? Many of the people spoke of green spaces. We are going to bring you green spaces. We are going to bring you the calm and the solitude of those spaces during the day. Okay? We're also going to bring you excitement in terms of being a flexible space that can be converted to many different dynamics. Okay? And we're going to reach out to the community once again. Our community process is not really that we want to do the community engagement again. It's that we were told to do the community engagement again. By whom? By the people that were part of the community engagement process. So what we thought we would do, so not as to not encumber the schedule or timeline, is we thought we would reverse the process. Instead of we taking the community engagement to them, which we've kind of already done, we thought we would ask the community to join us in designing the park in a truly dynamic and engaging process. We'll discuss the character of the site and its infrastructure capacity. Obviously, Nowak and Fraus have the capacity of taking care of all of the engineering, survey, underground soils, and conduits that be necessary to run this park. We'll state the goals clearly based upon the look and feel and establish design parameters, which means taking into account budgeting. The professionals will work together to produce concepts to share with the community in a workshop. We're actually doing our work. We're just not doing it in our office. We're going to be doing it here in your office. We're going to allow the community to react to those concepts. We'll talk to them about it. We'll track the responses, and we will challenge them and relish in the opportunities that they uncover. Then we're going to negotiate. We're going to refine, and we're going to come up with the best and highest priority ideas that will go into that preliminary plan. So they're not excluded, and it will be transparent. Allow the community to react and refine. We'll take that into account and track those responses as well. And then we'll deliver the final master plan, construction drawings, and build as many phases as possible within the allowable budget. So that'll be our process, and we'll try to emulate a lot of the projects that people talked about in look and feel. Many of the projects from the other presenters are along those lines as well. Campus Marshes, Shane Park, the High Line in Cumberland of Tennessee. If we can take that. And this diagram, or this picture here, is of Cumberland, Tennessee. This was the #1 rated project that they cited in the look and feel. And I think you can begin to see the different dynamics that are at work there and why they would choose something like this. And it does give us the direction on top of the transparency that we're trying to strive for. So now Ricardo is going to take over with Albert Kahn.
Thank you, Bob. Good evening. I'm Ricardo Papini, landscape architect and senior associate with Albert Kahn Associates. As you're aware, our Royal Oak project team is renowned for developing world-class park projects. I will take you through 7 significant projects from our team's portfolios that are comparable in size to Royal Oak Downtown Park and highlight key features and attributes that have been identified from community outreach and feedback. Our first example is Shane Park, located in downtown Birmingham. The project team consisted of members from Nowak and Fraus, Albert Kahn, and Fountain People. This 3-acre project was a revitalization and expansion of the existing park into a true town square. We achieved that goal by using strong features such as geometrical walkways and durable paving, hardy and adaptable plant material, and sustainable LED lighting. Prominent features include a covered trellis and open lawn at the south end of the park that doubles an outdoor amphitheater for musical events. At the center, we converted Merrill Street from a roadway to a secured pedestrian walkway with Marshall Frederick sculpture, Freedom of Human Spirit, as the central focus. A monumental fountain plaza is flanked on the east and west by war memorials, and a fun children's play area anchors the north end of the park. Next. This slide illustrates how the fountain and sculpture are key attractions to the park by providing open and inviting spaces for people to congregate. Next. These conceptual drawings were prepared by our team members, Krieger Klatt, and showcase the urban design experience with Royal Oak. The image on the left shows an innovative way they've incorporated the proposed Henry Ford Medical Office building and parking garage into our proposed project site. What some may consider a residual space is now energized by a covered walkway that acts as the main entry into the downtown park, while framing the historic Marshall Frederick's Star Dream Fountain. A gathering place with wayfinding signage and a rain garden further enhance this area. The image on the right shows an urban design concept that converts the alleyway behind Mr. B's into an outdoor commercial corridor, which uses paving, contemporary furniture, and LED lighting to create an energetic and safe place during the day and evening. Thank you. Next, I'm going to take you through the GM Riverfront Promenade, which was designed for General Motors World Headquarters located at the Renaissance Center. This 4-acre urban plaza and promenade showcased GM's commitment to reconnecting the city and its citizens to the Detroit River. Worked on by Albert Kahn and Oakwood design team members, large decorative plazas were balanced by smaller, intimate landscaped areas as shown here. These types of spaces provided the versatility to hold large-scale events such as concerts or festivals, or spaces for smaller social gatherings. The image on the left shows the Granite Plaza and terrace seating area, which is heavily used during the day and during civic events like fireworks night. The central fountain, originally planned to only provide visual displays, transformed into an interactive water feature that is used by both children and adults. The feature on the right, the image on the right of the riverfront promenade and garden rooms connect pedestrians, runners, and cyclists to the water while providing areas for activity or contemplation. Many parks have designated spaces to honor important groups and individuals. This slide of the Michigan Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Monument, worked on by Nowak and Fraus, exemplifies our team's experience and commitment to creating places and monuments that honor those individuals who go above and beyond for the common good. Applying this principle to Royal Oak Downtown Park will be paramount. This slide shows Mount Elliott Park, which is a 5-acre park worked on by our team members from Oakwood Design and Albert Kahn. The goal was to design a dynamic, playful, and family-friendly park that would revitalize the often overlooked open space. We introduced new public amenities and play structures to draw people back. This slide highlights open lawn panels, which provide flexible space for activities and sports. Concentric concrete walkways designate seating areas for live performances. And a riverfront promenade allows fishing, strolling, and unobstructed views to Belle Isle in Canada. This follow-up slide features the Parks Pavilion on the left and the children's water feature known as the Beach Schooner on the right. The pavilion houses concessions, restrooms, and a security station, along with a covered seating area with loose tables and chairs. The Beach Schooner has button-activated water sprays and multiple play surfaces to promote interactive play. Our final slide shows the Detroit Civic Center Promenade, which was a catalyst for the development of riverfront projects known as Detroit Riverwalk. Developed by our Albert Kahn and Oakwood design team members, this 3-acre park reclaimed the derelict waterfront in front of Joe Louis Arena and Cobo Hall. Durable and simple materials of concrete, lawn, and native plants were used to create both recreational and passive spaces, seating areas, and a very popular promenade. The park's lighting was upgraded to increase public safety and encourage evening use. The promenade is heavily used for walking, running, and fishing, as well as for large-scale events and spillovers from festivals at Hart Plaza. In closing, our team has proven experience in designing and developing innovative, world-class parks and open spaces that will fit the vision and character of Royal Oak. Thank you for your time. At this point, I will turn the presentation over to Joni Slusky, representing LAP, who will present our team's focus on sustainability and design of human-scale spaces.
Hi, I'm Joni Slusky. I'm a landscape architect, and I hope to bring human restorative qualities to this park. Parks are self-administered well-being treatments that should focus on mood, anxiety, and stress reduction, and should be accessible in everyday settings like healing gardens, like you see here. Gardens provide a nature exposure. They are views of complex elements that capture our attention. In a nature setting, we look at the greenery, we watch the gurgling water, the fish in the pond, and we can daydream. We have 3 gardens here on the slide, designed for comfort and reflection. They are complex gardens. They're organized spaces with a focus on nature, variety, and mystery, goals we hope to accomplish in a garden. At the Delhi Veterans Memorial Park in Holt, Michigan, visitors can congregate or pause for a nature exposure. Careful plant selections offer opportunities for seasonal interest, starting with spring bulbs in April. And you see the summer perennials here blooming. Fountain walls, columns of greenery and flowers, and paving patterns all help to define intimate spaces. Okay. At the Jackson Arts Walk, you see here, clear pathways invite exploration. Furniture allows the users to enjoy long views. The art installations make the walk interesting and help with a sense of place. An environment that fosters well-being offers a clear understanding of where we are. Gardens must be orderly, yet must be complex enough to hold our interest. And lastly, it must provide opportunities for exploration. Okay? The historic Scott Sunken Garden in Lansing, Michigan is a project that is underway by Bob Ford and myself. The new setting, we're moving the garden. The new setting will organize the perennials by color and focus on the plants from the 1930s time period. This will allow the garden club gardeners an easy method to add new plants and relocate them as they see fit. This image of Clyde Warren Park in Texas by the Office of James Burnett was selected by almost 62% of the participants as the preferred planting scheme in the Royal Oak Visual Preference Survey number 2. It has all the elements of a restorative experience. The soft, seasonal, perennial plantings, shade trees provide a place for self-directed nature exposure in the context of an average day. We will soon be able to enjoy a nature experience similar design at the Normandy Oaks Park, which is on the right. Our team with the City of Royal Oak handled the entire park project. It will offer quality time with nature filled with naturalized planting, striking a balance between areas of activity and areas of quiet contemplation. And the Rain Garden at Central Michigan University. The rain gardens are an important part of the parking lot design because they capture and cleanse the stormwater through groundwater infiltration. And Delta Dental Building landscape is green infrastructure. In this case, soil, water, plants in disguise. Is a beautiful landscape, the Delta Dental Building in Okemos, Michigan. The naturalized planting work to protect the shoreline. A controlled planting uses plants in mass to form swaths of color near the building. This beautiful landscape is the result of an engineering concept that solved the many problems of erosion in a monoculture lawn. And now I would like to introduce Ken Clemmer of Oakwood Design and turn it over to him.
Thank you. I'm Ken Clemmer from Oakwood Design. And although I started out as an architect and interior designer, I've spent the last 25 years of my career primarily involved in the technological side of things. Lighting design, control infrastructure, coordination of fountains and other elements, Wi-Fi systems. A lot of these were for public parks and other areas that you're familiar with around downtown. And as you know, in Michigan, it's dark, especially in the winter, about 16 hours a day, or at least it feels like it. So lighting is a really important part of the entire process here at the Royal Oak Park. Not only can lighting be useful just to illuminate space and create a presence of safety, but it's also useful for other infrastructure points. We can bring power to that. We can have electricity in the base of the pole, receptacles in the base of the pole, so you can plug in things like food trucks or portable vendor carts for special events. Holiday lighting can be attached to those same poles and fed from those same electrical power points. They also become landing points for things like audio speakers and surveillance cameras, all of the kinds of things that you need in a downtown setting. That audio, well, we're not going to go through that in too much detail tonight, is an important reinforcement to live performance. And then my background in theater design and outdoor theater spaces will also serve to help the team design the amphitheater and performance spaces that are used in the park. I'm going to take you through a few projects that I've been involved with in the last few years. This first one here is a hotel space in Clearwater, Florida. And what I want to focus on here is, here's a relatively small plaza, and it has a lot of buildings immediately around it. But we can avoid the view of those buildings and create a very serene garden in the midst of an urban atmosphere by illuminating that surrounding plant wall. So this is a good example of that. Next is the Dow Gardens in Midland, Michigan. This was a project that was completed a few years ago and was on the site of one of the Dow chemical buildings on the river in Midland, and utilized a series of stone walls, providing that natural element with pierced metal screens that display different scientific concepts that Dow was responsible for throughout the years. So lighting is very evocative in this kind of space and sets off really beautifully against the evening sky. Here's a project you may have seen around town recently. I don't even really have good photographs of it. This is actually one of the renderings, but the Etkin building just down the street utilizes some theatrical and kinetic lighting concepts. You'll see there's a little bit of color change that occurs on that building around the top of the crown and also on that key south-facing wall. Mount Elliott Park, which, as Ricardo mentioned, was one of the projects we recently worked on with Albert Kahn Associates, puts some of these things that I've been talking about into play. Again, we use the light poles as a fulcrum point for all these technological features that can be required in the park. We were involved with the water feature design and the illumination of the shade structure as well. This is a project I completed several years ago now in Branson Landing, Branson, Missouri, on the waterfront. And this has a few very interesting elements to it. It's a fairly urban space in a small town, and has street lighting that is innovative in its ability to change color. We actually integrated the sound system into the streetlight poles itself, so all of the speakers are completely hidden from view. Gives us beautiful surround sound stereo. There are means to plug in devices, food trucks, vendor carts, charge your cell phone right off the pole as well. Those can also become points for Wi-Fi systems and other things that would be useful in the park. And last project that combines the presence of a water feature as well was the Wembley Arena in London. And that project took a Depression era, 1930s era natatorium, and basically turned it around 180 degrees. What was the back door became the front, and what was the front door became the back. And this former loading dock plaza was completely reimagined as a public space. We designed specialized light towers that went in that space to illuminate the entire area. The fountain features were synchronized with the color change in the building facade and the towers, and there was an audio system as well. And on the subject of fountains, we've pulled together our fountain consultant and water feature consultant wasn't able to be here tonight, but that's Fountain People. And here's a couple of examples of different types of water features that could be employed at the park. There's these more serene types of examples that you see here on the screen that are primarily things to look at, but they also perform an important acoustic element in the park, and they mask some of that surrounding traffic noise and provide that white noise background effect. Fountains can also be more sculptural, as these two elements, these two examples illustrate, one in a little more naturalistic sense with the geese. Those are not real geese landing there on the stream. They're all sculpted. And then there's a more abstract architectural feature. And they can even become slightly more interactive. As an example of a project that they executed in Disneyland, where people can interact with the fountain, not necessarily get wet from it, but play with it as they walk through the water feature space. The fountain sense their presence and drop out in that area so they can pass through on dry land, sort of a parting of the Red Seas approach. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jason Krieger.
All right.
Thank you.
Bob gave me the gentle nudge, so I'm gonna hurry up a little bit. So I'm Jason Krieger with Krieger-Klett Architects, and I'm gonna touch on the history, or how we could bring the history into the park. This is an image that you actually saw earlier this evening. That's the original park that was designed in 1933, or built in 1933, right about where we are tonight. In the newspaper article, it said that it was built, or in the fund, it was only $100 for it. So they were able to do it because the residents in Royal Oak at the time donated their time and effort and materials to do it. Kind of like how hopefully, the public engagement keeps going and people donate their time just like you folks are doing tonight. So regarding the history, we want to touch on two things. First, how we can bring the history into the park. We're just going to talk about a couple of concepts. And second, how our team's history on this project to date actually could help this out. So with regards to bringing history into the park, there's a couple things. I mean, obviously, you could look at using the metaphor of, the Royal Oak and how that can be abstracted and applied through sculpture or through furniture or a child's playground. There are options like that we could look at. You could directly insert the history into the park, whether it's through maybe it's a pathway that has stones with different historical markers attached to it, or placards, or maybe the path winds through a butterfly garden or something like that. These are all things that we just kind of brainstormed and thought we would mention, but these are also things that have to be vetted and designed and brought forward to you and also the public in order to get the final design solution. Finally, our team, we've been on this project for nearly 4 years now, since the inception of it, literally pushing boxes around on paper to see where the park was going to go. All the way to today, where now you see buildings being erected around this this building right here, which won't be here. So what we see is an opportunity to not start from scratch, but take this team, who also, as you know, did the public engagement a little while ago, and move forward rather than starting over. So we feel that we bring a lot of value to the city and to the residents because of everything that we've done to date, and also everything that we could do to complete.
How do we start this, do you know?
Good evening, Jeff Huda with Nowak and Fraus. Sorry for my tardiness, just stepped off a plane, so I'm sure you're feeling sorry for me. Overall, again, just some closing comments here, and I know this was touched on earlier. We really assembled this team of dynamic individuals and firms, one, to carry forward the history of everything that's been done to date. When we look at firms like Krieger-Klatt and their involvement in this project, it was going to be vitally important to have that transition and making sure that the selection of materials was in harmony with everything else that was being built around it. So just that history and everything associated with that is vitally important. It was vitally important for us in assembling this team. Overall, our team is, as Jason indicated, we've been working on this project for 4 years, and we really, truly want to help build this park for you folks. Your handout identified some deliverables on the back side of that card. We don't want to go through that in detail. We felt that our proposal was very comprehensive in how it laid out the community engagement component of this, the public meetings, everything associated with this project is done with purpose. There's a lot of thought that's gone into what we presented to you folks. So with that, we'll open it up for questions.
All right, thank you very much. Questions from the group?
Yeah, I have a question. So you submitted a bid for, I think, 537. If we back out some of the additional water features, community engagement, that's 86,000. This bid, this breakdown of cost is 521,000. So where's the difference of about 70 grand?
Great question. There was if you look at the manpower breakdown, the hourly rates didn't change, the hours didn't change. There was a physical math blunder in the formula, which resulted in a $15,000 increase in cost that wasn't meant to be in there. So just by calculating and fixing that formula, it brought the cost down to the 521. And then the deducts would be applied to the 521.
So all the water and amphitheater and all that stuff was not included in the initial bid?
It was.
Thanks.
So I just want to be clear, so where does that leave us, and maybe staff, you can answer this question, on their final net bid, that is removing the fountains and amphitheater and bathrooms? What's our?
We're going to take the spreadsheets that the vendors provided you, and we're going to consolidate them onto one spreadsheet for you and get that to you this week. And we'll figure out the deducts and the adds and the to be determined.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, so that you can compare it all on one. I didn't come up with that idea, well, until about 15 minutes ago, and I said we need to consolidate. We'll consolidate their 5 spreadsheets onto one master spreadsheet.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
You have 2 architecture firms listed in the proposal. Why do you have 2 architecture firms?
Well, first of all, Albert Kahn is really brought on board for the heavy lifting associated with the actual park design itself. We felt it was vitally important that Krieger-Klatt be a part of the team and that they've basically designed every structure around this facility. So having their history and carrying that forward, and again, going back to the selection of materials, all of those things I think are going to be vitally important, whereas Albert Kahn really focus is going to be more landscape driven. Certainly if there's structural elements as a part of the park, they'll be leading that. But Krieger-Klatt was specifically for compatibility of materials and that history associated with everything.
Other questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So I keep seeing designs of your entryway into the Henry Ford building and then the lighted alleyway. Is that pre-existing plans or are those part of your downtown park plan? Are those two things connected or are they going to be?
I'm going to let Jason kind of answer that question because a lot of that came from him, but my understanding is a lot of imagery and a lot of the thought process that went out to develop those ideas.
There you go. Yeah, those are conceptual images that we just showed that we did look at and study other aspects around the site, just to show our involvement, that's all.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
No, if I may, so the treatment on Second Street, they're coming off Main. So that's, where did that come from, the drawing that we
It's
just saw?
just purely conceptual. There were images that the design team just worked on over the course of the past couple of years, just because of different circumstances on the project, so that's all.
So at some point, though, we've got a connectivity plan.
Yep.
Right, that's gonna be part of the connectivity plan.
Right.
Who's paying whom to actually design that?
That portion of Second Street, that, I believe our boundaries stopped before that, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So those are just images shown that we in the past have looked at that, but that was really just for the developer, just exploring ideas. That's all that was.
So you're not designing it?
Correct.
And then I'm gonna go back to the question of the alley design. Is someone designing that? Are you, as someone?
So the images that you saw for the alleyway?
Yeah.
That's what was presented, boy, probably at least a year or so ago now, to try and spur the city to spend a couple more dollars on that alleyway to improve the pavements, and then hopefully get the local businesses to engage that alley, to activate it. And then, at the DDA level, I said on the DDA as well, we talked about how can we start improving our alleyways as well. So it's all kind of fosters from there.
Okay, so it's just all idea starter, conceptual things?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'd just add to that, I mean, again, it's just a demonstration of our, collectively, the team having their head wrapped around a lot of these problems and ideas for quite a long time. But just really want to point out too, and out of respect for this process, we're not coming into this with any preconceived designs. Obviously, community engagement has given us a real strong foothold on really the direction of the project, but hopefully none of the images today lead you to believe that we've started designing this process. It's not something that we're really advocating here. We want to let the process unfold organically.
Any other questions? I just have one, and it's just based on one of the items that's on your deliverables. It goes back to community engagement. It says we will hold a 2-day design workshop for continued public engagement, and Bob described that a little bit. Could you describe that just a little bit more, how it will be different than what community engagement stuff we've already been involved in?
Well, what was developed to date was the look and feel component of the park, okay? The design workshop is actually going to get into the nuts and bolts of the physical design. We felt that, through the entire community engagement process, which lasted approximately 6 months, the public was very clear in that they're demanding that they still be engaged in this process moving forward. And I think as we presented this to this task force and to the city commission, that the community engagement to date was really, it's setting the guidelines, if you will, for the design moving forward. The design workshop is really meant to allow the public to engage in that design process over a 2-day period. We'll be working with the public for approximately 8 hours, 4 days, 4 hours on the first day and 4 hours on the second day. And they'll be able to work hand in hand with the designers. So the design team itself, we're going to come together in a room and we're going to hear the public for the first 4 hours. After that, we're going to go to work and design, and we're going to do some really high-level concept drawings and sketches and thoughts. We present that to the public on the second day, kind of get their reaction, their feel for it, that additional input. And then after that, we go to design and we prepare 3 high-level concept drawings. And those 3 high-level concept drawings continually get refined through the process. And community engagement doesn't end there. Community engagement is built into our proposal at each of your task force meetings, at each of the city commission meetings, where we'll continue to receive that critical community feedback. So we felt that overall that was a really strong program for our team to be able to put together for the public.
Okay, that clarifies it for me. Thank you. Any other questions for this team of people? No? Okay, thank you all very much for coming tonight. This brings the agenda back up here to the table. I know that there's another item on the agenda, which is public comment, and we'll get to that in a second. But I think before we do, I would like this group to discuss what our next step is, and maybe the staff will be involved in that as well. I know that based on what Mr. Rassel just suggested, that they're going to put together a spreadsheet for us, which will be so helpful because it's a lot of information to process at this point in time.
Right. We'll take the spreadsheets, the 5 spreadsheets, or each spreadsheet that was provided by the vendor, by the individual task. We'll consolidate that into one spreadsheet. I won't break it down by vendors, so you'll have to look at the other spreadsheet if you want to see the subcontractors, how that's broken out. But we'll do a total for each task and do a comparison, and we'll subtract out the add-ons that some people put deducts, some people put adds. Basically, we'll ground that out so that everybody's in a to-be-determined status for those extra features like water features and restrooms like that, so that everybody's on a common ground. And we'll get that to you this week. The earliest I can have this to the City Commission is May 13th, the first meeting in May. So we just need to meet again to make a decision or a recommendation.
Will we get copies of these presentations?
Yeah, we can do that. Yes, we can.
By email, I would assume, right?
Yes, it'll be by email. They're all big enough that they can go email.
There's some that will have to be special.
We'll figure a way to do that. A couple of them are pretty large for email,
Okay.
Okay.
but we can Dropbox those, right?
Yeah.
Judy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I posted stuff before on the website.
Okay.
You can-
Okay, but we'll make those available and let you
Great.
know whether they're on the website or email them to you. But we'll get
Okay.
that information to you via email.
Okay.
So you said, Greg, we need to have a recommendation by May 13th?
No.
Oh.
I would probably like a recommendation by May 1st so that I can have the letter written and turned in a timely fashion so that it goes out with the commission packet the week of the 6th for the meeting on the 13th.
Okay, so 5/1 is kind of our internal.
Kind of, yeah, meeting prior to that would work for me.
Do we have a meeting date set?
No, we do not. For this committee?
Yeah.
No, we do not. That's probably one of the next items on the agenda to determine when you'd like to meet again. If you really like the Monday thing, the 29th's open. Hopefully that one won't be as long as tonight.
No, we have the senior citizens task force session it's from 5 to 8 p.m. But we have that from 5 to 8 p.m. on the 29th.
Okay,
So
so
I guess I'm the only one here that's on that. We could meet before that, we could meet,
I'm open to calendar games.
And the question, I guess, that I have for this task force is that even with,
I think we should meet before the 29th.
even with the May 1st deadline looming, is one meeting going to be sufficient?
That's why I thought we should meet before the 29th, so that, just in case one meeting's not enough.
Just to be prepared.
Yeah.
Yes.
so that would be next week.
Do you guys have commission meeting?
Yes.
We do have one on Monday.
So Monday, the 22nd's out.
Thursday.
Thursday, the 25th? Sorry, is that right?
Yes.
I gotta bring my glasses to these meetings if we're gonna look at this little stuff.
Yes. Do the 25th.
You can't, Kyle? Okay. What about Wednesday?
Wednesday.
The 24th?
I have a 7 PM Environmental Advisory Board meeting.
The 23rd.
Meet before that. I can do the 23rd.
I can't do the 23rd.
Oh, no.
This is the best game ever.
This is amazing.
That's why the May 1st deadline is so difficult.
Right.
Well, we can go, I mean, you can meet the 2nd or the 3rd. I mean, I can write a letter in a day, I think. The boss will let me get by on that.
What about the 29th?
Could be 29th if we need another meeting sometime that week.
We could do the 29th, and then if we have a problem, we'll...
See I'm tied up with senior task force, from before 5 till 8. And that's our first focus group meeting, and I'm on the committee, so I sort of feel like I need to be there.
The 30th?
Works for me.
do the 30th.
30th is okay.
Kyle?
6 o'clock?
I can do the 30th.
All right.
30th.
We have a winner.
Okay. All right.
You all chuckle. We
No,
all
I-
work full-time and do this in our part-time.
No, I totally understand.
No, you understand. I'm talking to the Smith group back there who's giggling at all of this.
They live that.
No, they know.
Okay, so
At 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll plan on meeting here unless there's some other meeting, but I have 3 commissioners here. There's not?
No other meetings.
All right, so good. So we should be able to meet here then.
Great.
So are we using, you had given us early on some scoring sheets, which were, not necessarily carved in stone, but at least a thought starter. Do we have opinions about whether or not we want to, in our review, come do some numerical scoring and come in with some scores?
Right, we sent you
Or
a
just
copy of the
rankings?
blank score sheet. We also provided you the engineering fill out of those score sheets, and the DPS recreation fill out of those score sheets as well.
Sure. I can send you a copy of mine if you want.
Yeah, which I looked for it in my queue and
Okay.
couldn't find it.
All right,
So I knew you sent it.
We'll resend that
You'll resend
again.
that?
We'll resend the blank score sheet
send
and
you
the
this.
summary of the
I did
engineering and
formulas for you, John.
DPS recreation scoring as well.
Good, thank you.
I can clean this one up, send it to John without my numbers in it, so he can send out a blank one for me.
He's got it.
He's got it.
Some of you are so much more organized in terms of you process this information. The rest of us are like, ugh.
I fortunately had a whole week to read these.
Okay, we have a meeting date, April 30th at 6 o'clock in this room.
Okay.
Hopefully, our goal will be to come to a conclusion that evening. We may be here for a while or not. We'll see.
All right.
Anything else that the staff needs to tell us at this point?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anything else that the task force needs to bring up at this point before that meeting? We think we all have the information that we need, more than we need?
We'll have to develop a process for how we agree on something.
Yes, yes. I'll give that some thought and also talk to some other people who've done this type of thing before. The Normandy Oaks selection process will be probably a good template for that, so we'll use that, as well as the score sheets and everything that we've all developed and other people have developed that we're all going to share.
Great.
Okay. Anything else? I'm going to open that up now to public comment. Is there anyone from the public back there? I can't see very well.
Guess not.
No. Last call, we're not going to, all right. We'll close public comment then. I should indicate, for those of you who are watching this, who are going to see this either this evening and are watching publicly because it's being broadcast, or who are going to catch it on tape later on, you are welcome to email us any kind of public comments that you have about any of the presenters that came this evening or any other comments that you have on this process. We welcome any other public comments that get sent our way between now and April 30th, when hopefully we'll make a decision on this process. So don't think that the public comment period just closed and you're not going to have an opportunity to comment on it until we come back together on the 30th. Email us in care of the department or in care of the City Hall website, and we will get that email and we can use that information as well. So please feel free to do that as this process goes forward. Given that, any items that are not on the agenda this evening?
I just want to.
Yes, Mr. Dunstan.
Based on a question Commissioner Douglas asked, is the transition area over there by the garage and the office building, we should probably get some clarification on that, because if it does bleed over, I mean, it's beyond the border, if you will, of the park. You know, whose responsibility will that be? Is there going to be some kind of transition put in place? Something to think about. And the other thing I was thinking about, as we kind of went through this as well, is security. Do we need to, like, when I'm talking about security, I'm talking about the park and the borders of the park. I didn't really ask that question of any of the petitioners, but I know that, or the people out there, but I don't know if there's Homeland Security things we should be looking at, considering what's going on in the world right now. Around the borders of the park to protect from vehicles and whatever. So I didn't know if any of that has come up, but those are just two things I think should be at least talked about or addressed.
We can address that during the design process.
Right.
And as far as the transition, when we select whoever we select, we are going to sit down with the team that's designing connectivity and the buildings and mark the boundaries on the map and say, you design up to here, and this is what's designed beyond this point. You have to integrate with what's already been approved and is going forward. So that's all going to be incorporated into early discussions with whoever's selected.
Okay.
I do know that the developer of the Henry Ford building was designing or has designed and reformulated their original building design to include some kind of a covered, partially covered walkway from the Henry Ford building to the parking structure, so that...
That's dead as of last week. That's dead.
Oh, that's dead, well, then never mind. Okay. I didn't realize that was dead.
That is it. Okay.
Okay, never mind.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes. The consensus is that that was good.
At least two.
Okay, any other issues to come before us this evening? If not, we are adjourning at 8:50, which is earlier than I thought we were going to be adjourning. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for staying. Thank you for those who are watching, your patience, and we will see most of you again on April 30th. Yes, we do need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Buck, second by Mr. Dunstan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we're adjourned.